Yep.
Off the mark, mate. Off the mark. We're live, ready to rock, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Spot on,
Back
mate.
to
Cool.
it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're back. We're back. Morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this back. Morning, Hathan. Thanks for jumping on with us
Morning,
this
mate.
morning, buddy.
It's all right.
How's things over that way? It's been a while since I've
Good.
been to Savvy Towers. All
Yeah.
systems go.
Stuff's opening back up, so obviously
Well, of
everyone's
course.
like, there's enough chaos to go around.
Oh,
Deliveries
definitely,
and
mate.
people showing up and yeah. So yeah, it's good.
100%, definitely. But do you know what I've found as well, like the areas that we're going walking and the routes that we're walking on and stuff like that, it's actually a little bit quieter now. I don't know if it's because people's got the shops that they can be in, and obviously beer gardens last week when the weather was really nice.
Yeah.
I've noticed that like the public footpaths and stuff where we're going to be going more with the dog and stuff like that, it's actually starting to die down a little bit now as well. So
Yeah.
people are actually spreading out a little bit more as well, a little bit.
Well, you
So
can do stuff now, can't you? You can actually go
of course.
places, somewhere to go.
Of course, yeah, of course. Obviously, I think what is it? Gyms are back open again. We mentioned last week that I think swimming baths or certain swimming baths and stuff like that are opening up again.
Yeah.
We've got outdoor sports again. So yeah, plenty to look forward to, and hopefully we're just moving in one direction with it, and they're going to be here to stay. So we have got a lot more sort of stuff at our disposal now when it comes to ways that we can be fit and ways that we can be active, certainly compared to 6 months ago, when obviously everything was shut down and we've been just walking and pretty much training in the house. So we're going to just sort of build on what we were looking at last week and try and take it one step further, where we're going to be looking at sort of fitness testing, and how to sort of make sure what we talked about last week, conducting yourself professionally, introducing yourself, helping people feel comfortable and stuff like that. We're going to take that a step further and going to actually sort of apply it to the fitness industry, something that I've actually got a little bit of experience doing, and that is conducting a fitness test on somebody else. It's one thing to sort of say, okay, we can track this bit of fitness by using this bit of kit, and we can use these tests, be it Cooper tests to check your aerobic endurance, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're carrying that sort of stuff out on somebody else, when you're working with a client, be it either like a paying member of the gym, if you're an employee of the gym, or a client that's actually paying yourself, if you're self-employed like I was for so long, of course, we want people to be able to sort of achieve their fitness goals and stick at them. We don't want someone to come in, have a bad experience with ourselves and think, oh, do you know what, that's actually put me off a little bit. I don't feel comfortable going back to that gym. I'm going to actually be put off. Because you know what it is, and I'm sure you've had times like it yourself, mate. You say to yourself, do you know what, I'll pick this up again next week. And before you know it, next week's been 2 weeks, been 3 weeks, and you maybe looking at like maybe it's even a month without doing anything, So the whole idea, and of course, if you end up working in that sort of industry and sort of within that field, we sort of mentioned last week, part of the aim, of course, and part of what should drive you towards that field should be a want to help people get the most out of themselves, to help them better themselves, to really help push them forward, to motivate them. So, of course, like I say, the last thing we want to do is give them any sort of negative experience when they're coming in. And you know what, truth be told, like 90% of people, I would say, that I've worked with over the years that I've done a fitness test on, they're in the gym for a reason. There's something that they want to work at. There's something that they're probably a little bit self-conscious of. So, of course, we're just trying to be a little bit mindful of that as well. And again, just help people feel comfortable.
Yeah, so the best way I've ever done it or had it like explained is like, we're going to do all this today over the next 2 days, and you're going to hate it, but we're going to do it again in 8 weeks, and you're gonna absolutely obliterate what you did in 8 weeks' time. You're going to be twice as fit or twice as strong. You're going to be able to do double what you did, or whatever it is. Like this is your benchmark, so don't worry about this fitness test. This is your starting point, and then like you work all the work you put in over the next whatever it is, might be 2 months, might be a month, might be anything under that, you're not going to really see the results. But like that's the best way I've ever had it explained by like a fitness, well, like a PT. Was look, we're taking where you are now. Ignore the results. Really, it's about beating them in however many weeks' time.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. That's something that I used to do with all of my clients as well. I'd make a note of the first session that they ever did, which of course is going to be a little bit of just trying to gauge their fitness levels, their ability levels, stuff like that. And I would, in sort of either 8 weeks or at the end of sort of 10 sessions, if they'd book 10 sessions or something like that, I would get them to do their first session again, just to really highlight, look, that weight that you were struggling with 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago, you know, it's your warm-up weight now, do you know what I mean? It's like a paperweight to you now. You just sort of chuck them out the way. Like I say, you'll warm up with that weight and then you'll move on to your work and sets, you know.
But it's not even weight, is it? Like it can be like mobility. Like, so we did like a stretching and mobility session on one of them, with one of them, and then come back to that and like just moving your body into like touching your toes, or like, you know, now I can almost get my hands flat on the floor, like, instead of touching my toes, and that's like a massive improvement, because before my hamstrings were so tight that I could barely, like, you know, reach up over on the floor if they were straight, if I kept them straight, sort of thing. And like, that's not a strength thing, really. You know, it doesn't all have to be strength or cardio fitness. It's like that's mobility. How well can you move? And
awesome,
to be honest, that's improved like my overall like level of pain and like me recovery from other things so much, just being able to like move my legs in a certain direction. Like,
definitely, mate. Yeah, definitely. And I know with all the running that you do, with all the football that you play, you know, it probably is, it makes sense. It fits in with all the patterns I've ever seen, that you're going to have tight hamstrings. So to sort of identify that and to really work on that, you know.
But that wasn't me either. Like, you know, I'm from a background of like, I'm quite active, but I haven't got the specialist knowledge like yourself. So like, you know, I can go to the gym and be like, right, I'm going to do 100-kilo back squat and I'm going to do that like twice a week. But like, that's no good to your joints, and that's no good to your mobility, really. Like, your muscles are strong, and I can, you know, run and jump quite high and stuff. But like, it didn't do like me back any good. And like, that's caused loads of issues because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah, of course. And like you say, not all goals need to be strength related, you know. It's not all about just going in and picking up a heavier weight week on week, you know. Like you say, there is so much to it, and we're going to dive in a little bit to just some of the different components of fitness that we're just going to have a brief sort of recap on. That you've probably come across if you did like the level 1 or a couple of the other courses that we do, just to recap on those. Then we're going to dive in and look at actually some of the ways that we can test them as well, you know, to make sure that we are actually developing the thing or assessing the thing that we're trying to assess. You know, it'd be like saying, look, I'm going to test how strong somebody is and get them to run 1,500 meters. You know, you're working there and you're testing their aerobic fitness. You'll get a time, you'll get some data that you can measure and you can track, but you're actually tracking the wrong component of the fitness there, you know. So yeah, just sort of making sure that we're doing sort of testing that's specific to the person's goals. Like Haytham mentioned a second ago, if you have a client come in that wants to work on mobility and flexibility, all of that sort of stuff, you need to say, oh, okay, how do I assess that right now to get like you say, like that benchmark, and then, you know, we can keep that data and come back to that as we're developing and moving forward over the next few weeks. Before we do move on, one thing that's always blown my mind when it comes to being in the gym is when someone will say to me, oh, I'm not fit enough for personal training. It's like, oh, I want to do like 4 weeks in the gym and then come to a PT. I'm like, yeah, it's totally fine to say I want to get myself comfortable in the environment. You know, I maybe want to come in and just sort of build a bit of self-confidence in myself, you know. But any PT that just sort of takes you up and in your first session makes you feel like it's so unattainable and pretty much just makes it their mission to beast you into the ground, you know, that's them showing to you that they can give you a good workout, but that's not personal training, really. You know, it's got to be personal to you. It's called personal training for a reason, and it is a PT's job to assess where you are and come to your level, and then make, you know, baby steps, try and raise that effort 10%, whatever it's going to be, as opposed to saying, right, this is where we want you, we're just going to dive straight in. It's exactly the same as anything. It's the same as a drastic change to your diet. It's going to put you off. It's not going to be sustainable, and sooner or later you're going to bin it off and try something else, you know. So it might be the best plan in the world, but if it's not sustainable, it's not doing its job, you know. And like I say, a good PT will come down to your level, or like I say, just assess where you are and work from there, you know, and make sure it's setting goals, isn't it? You know, we talk about it quite a lot. It's something that we do a lot at Media Savvy, you know, goal setting. We need to make sure that they're challenging, but we want them to be achievable as well. You know, Exactly, yeah. It's a quick way to take the wind out of anybody's sails, and demotivate anybody to put something in front of them that's totally unachievable. And you know what? There's only, especially if somebody is a little bit self-conscious and they haven't got a great deal of self-confidence, they might try something once or twice, and if they feel like they're struggling, sort of like really, really struggling, and really struggling to cope, sooner or later, you'll start getting the excuses, "Oh, I can't come along tonight," or you have them just vanish off the face of the earth. They'll just stop replying to texts and stuff like that. So yeah, it all comes down to giving them the best experience that you can at the end of the day. So yeah, that was just something that I did want to mention. Because I have heard that quite a lot over the years. I'm not fit enough for PT. So yeah, just be aware. If you are going to look into personal training or anything like that, it's their job to make sure they're working at your level and not vice versa. So yeah, definitely bear that in mind. Okay, so just before we spin on, just a little bit of a recap on last week. I know I mentioned a couple of these. We did look at our skeletal muscles, and just what makes them unique, what makes up that classification. And then, like I say, we were looking at just conducting yourself professionally, and how to introduce yourself. If you were to be going up and giving somebody an induction, I mentioned last week, it was part of my agreement with the first gym that I worked at that I would give them sort of 10 hours a week and they could sign up their gym members, and I would give them inductions and stuff like that and spend a little bit of time with them, which was a really good sort of meeting point for people, because it's a little bit more organic than just walking up to somebody on the gym floor when they've got their headphones in and going, "Oh, do you need a hand?" It's a really good chance to say, "Okay, I've looked through your file. I've seen that these are your goals. This is your injury history. I saw you had this operation 6 months ago." Obviously, you can call them by the name because you know the name, and it just looks so much more professional. It so much more welcoming, and straight away it puts that person in the mindset of, "Oh, do you know what? They're really thinking about my individuality. They're really thinking about what makes me me, and why I'm here." Rather than sort of them just walking in, you point out a few machines and say, "Right, see you later, give me a shout if you need anything." So yeah, it's all part of the experience.
It gave me a weird warning. I thought 2 seconds. I'm just going to quickly check it.
Oh, okay, no worries, mate. Yeah,
that's all.
I've got the little streaming thing going through the middle of the or the little buffering thing in the middle of the stream, like.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Oh no, we're fine.
We're all good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, cool.
Nice one. False alarm.
Not currently working with PT at the moment, but there's a few. Depends. I've been at like the gyms owned by like the councils before, and they're not as good in terms of like access to PTs. That you don't really get that. They're there, like the staff are all trained, and you can ask them questions and stuff. But like you would have to pay for private sessions to go with them.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But the membership I've got at the moment, I don't get access to a PT. You have to pay slightly more for it. But they put you on. They do like an assessment, but they do it on a machine that works out like your weight distribution and stuff.
Okay.
It's quite a good package, but I've had a program done by one of my mates, so he's worked that all out for me, and I'm like, I'm not really going to bother paying for it.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly sticking to that program at the minute because I'm still sort of recovering from all that running. But I do value it a lot. I think it's probably the best training because, like I say, I can pick out bits and pieces that I need, but it tends to be a lot of like either outright strength training or just bodybuilding stuff where like you're doing sets to failure.
Yeah.
When I've done the PT, it's been more like functional fitness, so like every minute on the minute circuits, like power work, but split across different days. So every day you're not doing like a 40-minute circuit, and every day you're not doing 5x5 strength training. It's like a mix of it all, but targeted and the right amount of rest in between and stuff. And that's the stuff that obviously, like I say, without the specialist knowledge, you'll not know about.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Every gym I've ever been to has had a trained PT on hand to ask advice. Some of them included in the membership. You get a plan.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Some of them you don't. You have to pay more.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was sort of coming back round to there. That in any gym you go into, it might pay to ask what the crack is with personal trainers and stuff like that, because like I say, I've worked in 3 or 4 different gyms and the setup's been totally different. You're either employed, you're self-employed and paying rent, you're self-employed but you're giving the gym hours, so it's easier to get inductions and stuff like that. Some gyms have some employed and some self-employed, like you say, where there's sort of like the employed staff you can go up to and just ask questions. How does this work? Can you show us this? And then you've got your PTs for your actual structured plans. And then, like you say there, buddy, you know, some gyms you go in and you'll get a plan sort of worked out for you based on the membership as well. So when we're doing your induction, or when you're going for an induction yourself, it's a really good chance to ask certain questions like that, you know, and just see how available that sort of more professional knowledge and expertise is going to be, you know, how easy it's going to be. Because I'm sure a lot of us are in the position right now where we're debating what gym we're going to go to, you know, but potentially your gym that you were at last year hasn't reopened, either financially or they've just made the choice not to right now. You know, there are gyms that have gone out of business. You might just be fancying a little bit of a change, you know. So yeah, it's a really good chance to have a little bit of a look around and just sort of see what's going on in each of the gyms and which one's going to suit you. Okay, but if you don't mind just spinning on to that next slide, then please do. I've just seen, Sue's got in the chat. Morning, Sue. Morning, Sue. How we doing? Hope you're all right. Okay, cool. So we've got what we're going to run through today then, what we're going to do today. So just touching on different components of fitness. Like I say, I know some of it's some stuff that you'll come across before, but it's kind of important in the context of what we're building up to in, like I say, just testing other people and making sure that the client or your client in this case is going to be comfortable with the whole process. Different types of fitness testing, like I say, equipment that we can use sort of within fitness testing. Again, making sure that we're trying to test and assess the right thing. You know, making sure that we are using the right kind of testing, and then, like I say, just staying professional and helping someone be as comfortable as possible while you carry out their fitness test. Because, like I say, it's one thing to learn the information. It's another thing to do it in close proximity with somebody else. You know, it was something that it takes a little bit of getting used to when you're freshly qualified, because obviously people are sitting there trusting in you and you as a professional, and in your mind potentially there's only you know that this is the first time you've ever done this. Really, you know, it was a little bit of an experience for me when the first time I walked onto a gym floor qualified, and it was kind of on me to walk up to people and say, look, I am qualified to help you. Do you need any help, sort of thing? You know, it does take a little bit of getting your head around, and like I say, doing it in close proximity with somebody else is a skill in itself. I've mentioned before, you know, people skills and your ability to talk to people and have people comfortable in your presence is going to be just as important as your fitness knowledge, you know, when it comes to muscles and training protocols and stuff like that, and nutrition. Like I say, if you can't get that information across to somebody and get somebody to listen to that, you know, you're kind of a walking textbook, really. You know, so yeah, there's definitely that side of things that encompasses skills that you might not think about as well. So yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a talk about that as well towards the end of the session. Sue says, don't want to gym, I just want to swim. That sounds like it should be on a picket sign, shouldn't it? That's don't want to gym, I just want to swim. Have you looked into it, Sue, about getting back to swimming and sort of what's available to you locally, and what their procedures are at the minute? You know, are changing rooms open? Do you need to book in? You know, because I wouldn't be surprised. And again, Hatham, you might actually have a little bit more experience than me on this at the minute, but gyms and facilities and stuff like that offering like good prices, you know, to get people back through the doors, you know, almost kind of like the ill-fated eat out to help out, but like sort of, you know, half-price memberships for your first month back at the gym, that sort of thing, half-price shakes, half-price PT, you know, buy 9 sessions and get your 10th one free. Like
a few of them are. I don't know exactly which ones. I'm just the one that I go to did to be fair to them, they always do like they do like a promotion once a year where it's like, I don't know, it's normally 17 quid and they change it to like $6.99 or something like that. Or they'll give you like a free month, or your first month. Join now, first month half price, so it'll be 17 quid. It'll be
9 quid.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
£8-ish, £8.50.
Okay. Something like that, yeah.
£8.50. So,
cool. Yeah.
So there'll be loads doing it, because obviously, to be honest, I don't see them being down on membership. That's the thing, because everyone will be desperate to get back.
Yes, of course, yeah, and that's where obviously, like, because I haven't been in the gym since they shut last year.
Yeah.
That was my last day in the gym, you know. So I haven't sort of seen what's kind of going on within that environment. But yeah, I didn't. I imagine that there would be a large percentage of people that would just flock back because, of course, there's been such a big sort of outcry for gyms to be open and fitness facilities to be open.
Yeah.
But then I wasn't. Of course, you know, people might still have sort of lingering doubts at the back of their mind. Some people will have realised that they're happy just getting out for a walk in the sunshine, you know, or training in the house. You know, maybe it's people like myself that have picked up something like yoga or something like that. You know, so I didn't know how much sort of teasing back or how much incentive they'd need to be giving people to go back. I mean, does your gym seem like it is pretty much back to normal sort of numbers, or as normal as they can be with restrictions still in place?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much like you've got they opened up back after the first, like when they were allowed to the first time round. So
Yeah,
it's not nothing's really changed since then. Like they've just opened back up with exactly the same sort of restrictions that they had before.
yeah, yeah.
So it
Cool.
hasn't really hit them that hard, but they're like a chain. So I think the ones that'll probably struggle the most are like the smaller, like,
Of course.
you know, two-person run gyms or like family run gyms and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a few, like, it's surprising how many there is as well. Like you think, oh, they're all big gym chains, but there's actually quite a lot of just like independently run ones.
Yeah, well, I used to work in one along Wessington Way in Sunderland.
Yeah.
In fact, I worked along two along Wessington Way in Sunderland. I started in DW Fitness, which was the big one there where they've built a new bridge across the river.
Yeah.
And I was in one called SR2 Fitness, which is kind of tucked in the industrial estate behind the big Sainsbury's up there as well.
Yeah.
And I know full well there was at least another two gyms on that industrial estate as well. Do you know what I mean? So it is worth looking around. You know, if the big chain gym doesn't really appeal to you, you know, maybe because I know DW at the time only really offered a membership that included swimming pools, swimming baths, the sauna, the steam room, all of that sort of thing. And that might not be what you're looking for. You might just want somewhere you can call into with your gym bag on the way home from work, last 45 minutes and then jump in the car and go home. Yeah. You know, so like you say, buddy, there's so many out there. I dare say that there's a few less than last year, you know, because like I say, there will be some that are unable to open up again, and there will be gyms that don't open up again, you know. But you know that there's still going to be plenty of options out there. So definitely, if that's something that interests you, it is a good time to start having a little bit of a look around. Sue says June or July at earliest for pools. Okay then.
Yeah, I think that's when everything, like all the restrictions are going to be lifted totally. That's when like nightclubs can open and stuff again. So that must be, they must have lumped that in the same like step.
Okay. I wonder why swimming pools are so late compared to the likes of gyms and stuff like that. I wonder if it is just to do with, of course, the swimming baths kind of really do need the changing rooms open and stuff like that.
Well,
you know,
yeah, I think there was the one in Haven Point, which is like the council-owned pool in Shields, in South Shields,
okay.
was open at some point before Christmas, before like the lockdown in November or December. But you couldn't use the changing room, so you'd have to go in like your robe or like whatever you're wearing over your swimming, and take your towel and leave the towel poolside, sort of get out, get dried, and get back in your car like still pretty much wet. And like that, obviously, it was like not ideal.
It's not ideal, especially to say that we're coming into winter as well, wasn't it? Pretty much.
But,
not that helpful.
There's outdoor pools open at the minute, but I think it's just getting into them and like finding them and then getting there. It's just a bit of a nightmare as well.
Of course. Of course. Okay, that's quite interesting to know. Then June or July at earliest for pools. Then so, Sue, you can be our eye in the sky on that. Then you can keep us updated. Let us know if there's any change to do with that. You know, is there anything you could be doing at the minute in terms of stretching, in terms of sort of I don't know, maybe you know, can you treat yourself to a new swimming cosy for when they do open, you know, or something like that. Something that's really going to help motivate you when the time comes. If just the thought of going back and being able to do it for the first time in over a year isn't motivating enough, you know, because do you know what? I've always enjoyed a swim. That is something that I am looking forward to being able to do again. You know, as and when the time comes. But like we always say, it's got to be safe, hasn't it? Yeah. So we'll just keep our eyes on that one then.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, guys. So yeah, if we can roll the next slide then, please, buddy. We've got our like I sort of mentioned earlier on, and again, you might have come across it before, especially if you've done some of the other courses that we've got. It's our components of fitness. So we've got our 6 components of physical fitness, aerobic endurance, muscular endurance, flexibility, speed, muscular strength, and our body composition as well. So we've actually got a couple of slides where we can just run through. I'm just going to have a little bit of a talk about how we can actually monitor each of these, potentially using bits of kit, or just sort of some other methods that we can use as well. So if we can go next slide then, please, buddy. So we've got our aerobic endurance. So that is, of course, the ability of the cardiorespiratory system, so your lungs and your heart, to efficiently supply nutrients and oxygen to working muscles during sustained physical activity. Yes, so if you've ever done like an aerobics class, or even aqua aerobics, of course, the whole idea is to just get you out of breath, get your heart and your lungs working, and that is, of course, like it says, helping your body become more efficient at getting oxygen round to where it needs to be, of course, through your bloodstream. For your bloodstream to move around the body faster, of course, your heart rate has to come up and your heart has to pump a little bit faster as well. So, like I say, the more efficient your heart becomes at that, the easier it is to get oxygen to whatever muscle group it is that you're trying to work. So how can we monitor our aerobic endurance? I would say the first thing I would go to would be, of course, something just like a timed run or something like that. Like something like, I know you do a lot of sort of running against the clock, buddy, don't you? Not always, because of course we've always talked about, not every time, not every run needs to be your personal best.
Yeah.
So I would just say something like even like a Cooper test, if you've ever done a Cooper test, or the Bleep test, if you've ever done the Bleep test, really good for your aerobic endurance. Just how long can you go? The first thing that's going to break down, of course, is going to be your aerobic endurance. It shouldn't be your quads from cycling. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be anything other than just your heart and lungs struggling to keep up. That dizziness, that sort of shortness of breath. You should really, at the end of it, be gasping for oxygen a lot more than you're desperate for water.
Yeah.
That was always the way that I used to work it out. Like I say, you just want, like, especially the first 10-20 seconds of somebody's rest to be just deep breathing. That's how you've really worked the aerobic system. So of course, yeah, like I say, you could just use something simple like a run against the clock on a treadmill. And then, like I say, you can use sort of other stuff like a bleep test, which I know we've mentioned it before, but is essentially sort of running from point A to point B, isn't it? Trying to do it before the timer beeps. But of course, the timer's beeping faster every single round. So of course, it's getting harder as you go. So yeah, that would kind of be my go-to to monitor aerobic endurance, if not just kind of put someone on a treadmill and say, okay, run a mile and a half.
Cool.
I've done it with clients before that were training for the reserve army and for other forces and stuff like that. You have a certain time that you've got to run a certain distance in, and of course that is all aerobic. So depending what the goals are, I might make it a little bit more specific. But those are just a couple of ways we can monitor and test and assess somebody's aerobic endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I'm trying to share my screen on my phone to show you like the heart rate zone thing on me smartwatch, but I kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah,
it's not letting
yeah.
me, it's not letting me do it.
Just to sit in that aerobic sort of zone rather than being sort of working at like obviously maximum output or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not. I am screen mirror. Hang on, has it stopped? Oh no, I don't know. It's not working. It's not letting me. Unless, hang on, if I drag it onto. Aha, right. Never mind. Hang on. Let me just show you here. So hopefully you can see that. I'm going to shrink the window just a little bit, if I can. I'm going to get rid of this weird black box that's popped up on the screen. Yes. So if you can see that there, it's not the greatest. It's got a bit of a watermark on it, but that's just one. Like, I think I'd recorded football. I'd played football and had my watch on, and it gives you your heart rates there. So as you can see, I was particularly struggling on this series because the average was 156, and my
Okay.
maximum was 189, which is like not far off my actual maximum heart rate.
I've got to say, yeah, that's right up there, like
And so it gives you
189.
like what I find handy about this is it sort of works it out for you because you put on all your details, you put in your age, it
Hmm.
works out like your maximum heart rate and that,
Hmm.
and it tracks it as a chart.
Yeah, like
So
a percentage.
yeah, so you
Yeah.
get your chart of where it was at any given time. So 11 minutes in, I was actually doing all right, and then if we go up to like 40 minutes in, roughly, you can see I'm starting to peak a little bit, and then I
Yeah.
massively
Yeah.
drop off because obviously I was just physically dying at this stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is really useful for like monitoring it. So you know if you go and run this or you go and walk the same route, and the first time you do it, you'll see your heart rate's probably quite high, and then after
Hmm.
you've done it
Hmm.
5 or 6 times, it should, and you do it at the same pace, it should level out
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
gives you like your VO2 max if you're interested in that. But what's anaerobic, aerobic, intensive, light, relaxed, like it gives you all that
Yeah.
information, which is really useful. You can basically you can see how hard you've been working, and if you're really struggling, you'll see where you were really struggling as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely in terms of sort of timings and stuff like that. Like I know full well that probably most Premier League footballers are probably training with these on at some point, you know,
Yeah,
to make sure that they can track. Because obviously, the more data a coaching team can get, the more they can sort of manipulate training and stuff like that, and really sort of pick apart people's weaknesses and stuff like that, you know. So
so
that sort of thing can be quite handy.
they have
Yeah,
the proper. It's like a really
like a chest band.
yeah. So it's like right on the chest, so it picks up the heartbeat as probably as accurate as you possibly can.
Hmm. Hmm.
This one's just it's a wrist one, so it's not 100% accurate, but it gives you a much better indication than if you were like just guessing.
Of course, yeah, yeah, and that is of course something that we could use. That's more in terms of a piece of technology that we can use. You know, be it sort of like not necessarily a Fitbit, but any kind of fitness tracker.
Yeah,
You know, we've mentioned before you can get them sort of online for like
this one was
as
30
little as
pounds.
20 quid.
This one
How
was
much?
30
30?
quid,
Yeah.
and it's basically like the exact same size and sort of dimensions as a Fitbit,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's
Yeah.
just like a cheaper alternative. And
Yeah.
it sort of pops out of the band as well, so it doesn't have to be. That's it basically. That's all you get, and you can get
Ah, okay.
the customizable like little
Yeah, like
wristbands.
interchange them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
that's pretty cool.
it to be honest keeps its charge quite well because it doesn't really do much.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
can link your phone to it. Obviously, it links to your phone, but you can link like your music controls and you can accept and reject calls on certain ones and that. But
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
Of
you don't
course.
need an all singing, all dancing Garmin or Apple Watch or anything like that. You can do with the
Definitely not.
basics.
Definitely, yeah, mate. You know, they're not absolutely essential. You know, we can monitor a lot of fitness without them,
Yeah,
but they do just add that next sort of level on top where that data, which could be so handy, is so readily available to you without, you know, like we say, if you can get one for 20, 30 quid, most personal trainers are going to charge that for an hour anyway.
yeah.
You know, so
It keeps a
you know,
record as well. Like it saves you like you don't have to like write down your times or make a spreadsheet or anything. It's all just in the app. Like you can just scroll back through the date and see on last Tuesday I went for a run and I did this, and then this Tuesday you can compare quite easily as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So for the sake of having it just sort of handy for your own personal record and just be able to go back and sort of look at yourself, like I say, something like that, like a little fitness tracker can be really helpful for sure. Um, okay then, buddy, let's roll on then. So we've got muscular endurance next.
Okay.
So that is the yeah, no worries, man, no worries. So our muscular endurance is the ability of a muscle to continue contracting, so working pretty much over a period of time against a light to moderate load. Of course, we can't put heavy in there as well because the heavier something is, of course, the less time we can do something for continuously. You know, it's like if you go and get the old 2 kilogram dumbbells, you could probably do overhead press for a lot longer than you would with a 10 kilogram in each hand. So muscular endurance training testing is going to be done really against it's going to be done like I say against a lighter load really. So the ability of the muscular system to work efficiently, and again we're talking in that sense, we're talking clearing out sort of lactic acid, you know, which is a waste product that your muscle moves from making and just sort of doing its job really. You know, so when it comes to muscular endurance, of course, endurance, how long we can keep something up for, rather than it being hard in your lungs like it was on the last slide for your aerobic endurance. For your muscular endurance, it's always going to be how long can your muscles keep going before they sort of shut down, and sort of coming back to something Haytham mentioned earlier on about training until failure, until your muscle just won't go anymore, until like it's like, no, I'm totally shut down. That is obviously you're reaching the end of your muscular endurance pretty much now. That might be doing something like even a set of 20, 30 squats rather than doing them, 5 to 10, that are probably going to be a good bit heavier. So muscular endurance, the first thing that, of course, I've thought of when I was putting this together was actually something like cycling or pedaling, because your legs just don't stop. If you look at the guys that do the Tour de France, you look at their legs by the time they're done, and like the veins are like pretty much popping through or popping out, some of the blood flow to those muscles, and the ability of those muscles to just keep going and keep going against like that slight workload. Those muscles might not work as well if you were to take, I don't know, sort of like a proper Tour de France cyclist, and get them to do heavy squats for 5 reps. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to be as strong as other athletes. But do you know what? I can't even imagine the amount of repetitions that the quads go through even just a stint of something like the Tour de France. More often than not, your legs are going to feel it a lot more than your heart and lungs are going to. That's not always going to be the case. But I tell you what, when I was doing spin, it was always me quads that would end up screaming at us rather than me cardio system.
Yeah.
When it comes to monitoring muscular endurance, then we can use cycling or sort of like some of the cardio machines within the gym, or the cycling cardio machines, be it sort of the recumbent bike, your regular cycling sort of cardio kit, or it might even be a spin bike with just a little bit of resistance on. And again, seeing how long it takes for your muscles to shut down, or can we say, right, we're going to do 50 squats, and we're going to see sort of how, even just body weight squats, how are you feeling by the end of 50 squats, and then as the time goes on, you're hoping to be able to extend that to obviously a little bit more, 60 squats or whatever it's going to be. So gradually building up the number. One thing that I would say to be wary of when it comes to working against time, reps against time, is just watch out for the quality of those reps. It's all too easy to, if I'm going to say, right, I'm going to do 50 squats as quick as I can and time them and make that the time to beat, we've got to make sure that those reps, when we're trying to beat that time, are of the same quality, and they're not half reps, you're not only coming down through half the range. But yeah, that would be how I always would work muscular endurance. Believe it or not, muscular endurance is one of the less picked goals that I've ever sort of that you sort of come across. There's a lot of strength training, there's a lot of weight loss, there's a lot of people who want to be fitter in terms of their aerobic system. There's not many people that have come to us and said, oh, I'm trying to do this job, and by the end of the day, me legs are just giving in on us. But, sometimes it might come down to sports. It might come down to athletes. When it comes to competition sports, of course, your muscular endurance, it's not always about beating yourself. It can make or break. It can affect a result. How well your legs are going to carry you. It's something that they say in the boxing, isn't it? Yeah. When someone's legs are gone, you're essentially like a sitting duck. You're a stationary target. So there are a lot of times that muscular endurance is going to come into play. So of course, depending on the goals, depending on the reason why they're doing it, might affect the way that I would test someone's endurance. But again, coming back to sort of cycling for time, that sort of thing is a really good way to sort of monitor and test someone's muscular endurance. Okay, cool. Right, buddy. So if we can go to the next slide, please, mate. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat as well. Sue says, Silksworth pool's open now, but must be booked online with 24-hour notice. Yeah, that's the way that a lot of gyms sort of reopened last year. Yeah. And doesn't have good experience with the Bleep Test. No, I don't think anybody looks back fondly on it. No, definitely not. Definitely not. That's for sure. Okay, so next slide that we've got flexibility, you know, which is something that even just looking at that picture there, that's not a position I could get myself into, man.
No.
Like that is, of course, kids are so sort of rubbery and they're so flexible. You know, you see kids fall over and hurt themselves and bend their body into ways that you think, oh, I wouldn't move right for a week, and they just sort of shake it off and laugh it off, and off they go playing with their mates again. You know, so what is flexibility? You know, it's the and it's the range of motion in the joints of your body, pretty much, you know. So of course your skeleton, more often than not, and the way that your bones fit together is going to sort of set the upper limit for how far a joint could move. And then normally, if we're struggling to reach that full range, it is normally a muscular thing. You know, we do get stuff like sort of snags on bone through certain ranges, but yeah, usually it is tightness in certain muscles, you know, especially sort of day to day. You know, are you sort of stiff getting out of the car? Are you stiff getting up off the couch or off the, like, moving away from the desk? You know, I know it's something that we've talked about, buddy, as well, you know, where sort of you get to the end of the working day and you're like, oh, I've got to do something, I've got to move, and it's so easy to fall into the habit of not doing that. And then, of course, you ask your body to move through a range that it did 10 years ago, and then all of a sudden, not so much. That's not happening, and your body just says no, thank you. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, how do we monitor flexibility? So of course, bar doing stuff like because like I say, when I've started doing yoga, it pointed out where I was flexible and where I wasn't as flexible as I might be, you know. So even just something like that is not obviously something that I would do through sort of strict fitness testing. The first thing I would go to when it comes to flexibility would be it would be a sit and reach test. I don't know if you've ever done one, buddy, but the way you'll do it, pretty much, you'll sit with your legs sort of, so your bum's on the floor, your legs are extended in front of you, and then there's kind of like it's almost simulating touching your toes, isn't it? And then you know, there'll be like this sit and reach test is actually like it's a board or sort of like a measuring stick, kind of like what you'd use for sort of getting your feet measured, you know, when you're trying to find out what shoe size you are. And then you'll just sort of pull down the bar to how far you can actually reach. So that's the aim, to sit forward and reach as far as you can, you know, and seeing how far you can actually get. Can you get to your toes? Can you come past your toes? You know, are you 10 centimeters past, or you know, are you 20 centimeters away from even reaching your toes? Are you struggling to even sort of reach your shins or your kneecaps, which I've seen over the years.
There's all sorts of like issues that you can have that will prevent you doing that, though, isn't it? It's not just like one thing.
Yeah, oh, definitely, mate, like definitely. You know, which is why it
could be joints, could be anything.
It's such a good, that's why it is such an effective test and such an effective method of testing. You know, it isn't just assessing how flexible your hamstrings are. You know, there's other ways to do that. Like you say, that whole posterior chain, you know, your lower back, your traps, your upper back, even, you know, your middle back, it is all sort of interlinked, and that is going to affect how far you can get on that sit and reach test, you know, which is a good idea of your overall flexibility, and not just saying like, okay, this person's hamstring's pretty tight, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Spot on. Yeah. So that would normally be the first thing I would go to help me assess somebody's flexibility. When it comes to mobility, which is a little bit different, and of course it's good movement patterns and the ability to move through good movement patterns. When it comes to mobility, sometimes it might just become more apparent throughout training. You know, if you ask somebody to do a squat and their bum only gets so low and then their heels start to lift up, you know, that is with experience and a little bit of time, you know, you can start to say, okay, that there's a little bit of tightness there somewhere. Where can we start with that? But like I say, just like a good base point, and something that I would always do in someone's sort of initial fitness test would be some kind of sit and reach, just to see how far they can get.
Yeah.
Cool, right, buddy. So rolling on to the next slide, then, we've got speed, which is different to our aerobic endurance, you know, and that is where sort of like the best examples I can think of is, of course, Usain Bolt is sort of universally known as the fastest man in the world, or he was when he was at his peak.
Record still stands, so I assume he's still the fastest man on the planet.
Yeah, yeah. Although I did see the other day, I'd seen it was just like what they call like a track meet or like a track day over in America,
Yeah.
and there was a kid who nearly beat it. Who nearly beat Bolt's world record, gold medal winning. I'll have to get his name actually because he might be one to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, to be nearly beating a world record in practice, it's some going. But yeah, definitely. So Usain Bolt, fastest man in the world, but if you put him in a course like a 1500-meter race against Mo Farah, I know where my money's going, and it's not going to be on Usain Bolt. And that is where the difference between these two different components comes in. Speed is your distance divided by sort of time taken, or sort of factored in against the distance that you've gone and the time that it's taken to do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just your ability to keep going and keep going and keep going, and for your lungs and your heart to be able to keep up. Now, of course, there's an element of power that comes into speed, which is why when you look at Usain Bolt, he's more muscular than Mo Farah. His quads are bigger, even his delts and his sort of his upper body's thicker because they're punching through the air to sort of help with sort of aerodynamics and. When your hands are moving faster, your feet kind of follow suit as well. But yeah, the faster an athlete runs over a given distance, the greater their speed. But of course, again, like I say, not to be mistaken for aerobic endurance. So how do we manage? How do we monitor speed? That would be where I would say come down to something a shorter distance, and then same again, just measure how long it takes, rather than aerobic endurance where you might set somebody off across, like I say, like a mile or 2 mile, or even like a park run or something like that, and see how long it takes to manage their endurance. Speed, we want to check across a smaller distance, be it 100-meter sprint, potentially 200-meter sprint, how fast a client can get down to that at the end of the gym and get back to you, sort of thing. I used to do a good one when I would use cones, and I would set them out, so I'd have like a start point. Yeah. And then I would have a cone set out, after 20 meters, 25 meters, 30 meters, however many of these I'm going to do. And I would make the client run out, touch the first one, run back to the start, run out, touch the second one, which is a little bit further away, come back and touch the start. And they're doing that, working their way all the way down the line until they've done the biggest sort of distance. And again, as long as you don't drag that out too long, when the heart and the lungs are going to start to determine how fast they can be, that is a good way of measuring somebody's speed. Like I say, it might just be from point A to point B, however far that's going to be, across like I say, a bit of a shorter distance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm just looking for the thing. I couldn't find it. I was looking for the 100-meter thing. It's just on Justin Gatlin. He won it, but then apparently a dog ran it as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
And nearly beat. It was a second off.
Right.
A dog ran it and was 1 second behind the world record.
Really?
Too bad for a dog.
I was going to say that's not bad going back. And tell you what, mate, after the last couple of weeks, there's nothing moves faster than a dog with something in his mouth that shouldn't.
That's true, yeah.
When he picks up a pebble and he decides he's taking off, that's it. That's it. I just see the back end of him.
Or eating a bit of chocolate or something that's fallen on the floor.
Oh, mate, definitely.
Back, like.
Nah, mine's developed the habit of like pretending that he'll look the other way and like he's sniffing on the ground, when really I just know that he doesn't want to look at us. Yeah. He's not daft. Okay, buddy. So rolling on to the next slide, then we've only got a couple more to do for these physical components. Yeah. So we've got muscular strength, which is something that it might sort of fit the idea of what you think of a little bit more when you think of fitness, or potentially, maybe your goals are a little bit more sort of strength based. I know me and Hatham have both done stuff over the years that are to do with gaining strength. When I started training, I accidentally ended up on like a strength program when I was training for hypertrophy. And it was only when hypertrophy is just essentially making muscles bigger, which is what I was trying to do, put a little bit of size on, gain a little bit of weight. And it was only through going away, getting myself qualified as a PT, I realized that it's like, oh, hang on a second, I'm getting stronger and my muscles are getting bigger, but I'm not focusing enough, I'm not concentrating on the areas that I needed to be on. So again, muscular strength, totally different to muscular endurance, and a totally different type of training to like I say, training for sort of size, you know. So muscular strength is sort of like it's the maximum force that a muscle or a muscle group can produce, you know. So that is going to be so when we talked about muscular endurance, that was how long it can work over and over and over again. Of course, when we're talking about muscular strength, we're talking about just how much weight can you move across a short period of time, be it maybe 1, 2, at the push 3 repetitions, you know. So that might be like your 1 rep max, your deadlifts, your squats, your big sort of compound movements. Now again, that would be something that I would go to, and it is something that you can look to sort of build up to with a client. It's hard to do on the first session, truth be told, because in order to put somebody at their 1 rep max, to say, right, you're going to struggle to do this just once, which is kind of where you want to be for muscle, for a lot of sort of strength training, somewhere around about your 1 rep max. So you're certainly going to want to know what your 1 rep max is for that exercise. And that's really hard to do if you haven't worked with a client for a little bit, you know, because like you say to them, right, we're going to do a bench press and try and figure out your 1 rep max, but I need to start you on sort of 50 kilograms. And you say, okay, you manage that, right, let's get you up to 60 kilograms. Okay, all good. Getting up to 70 kilograms, oh, it's getting a little bit heavier and it's slowing down, you know, but that's not necessarily a true 1 rep max, because the muscle might also be a little bit tired from the testing that you did at 50 kilograms and 60 kilograms. So really that 1 rep max should be based around being relatively fresh as well, you know. So again, it's hard to really sort of cut down and focus and really hit that sweet spot in the area that you're trying to. But again, that is part of the process, and that is something that you're going to do. You know, it might
definitely. So the idea that I've been told is basically when you work out your max, don't work at that either, because it's pointless. If you don't every week go and do your maximum weight, because you're not going to make any progress. You're just going to stick at that exact point.
Oh, definitely.
So drop slightly below it, work slightly below it, but more reps. Your muscles will be capable of exerting more maximum force for 1 rep if you've been working slightly below what your current maximum was.
So that is usually the case.
If your maximum's 100, not saying it is, mine's definitely not. But so say, for example, your maximum bench press is, I don't know, you say it's your body weight, let's say it's like 70 kilos. The way I've been told by like when I've had PTs explain it, right, that's the most you can physically do. If you work at 90% of that for 3 weeks, you come back to do a 1 rep max again, and you're fresh, you haven't been doing other stuff, you should be able to lift more than 70 for 1 rep, because your body's used to putting a similar amount of force for 5 reps. If you can definitely get one with a slightly more weight, and it's like you're slowly but surely like tricking your body into it, basically.
That's it. Yeah, it's like a hack, isn't it? It's like a hack. Yeah.
It's conditioning, though, isn't it? Your body gets used to it. It's all like, in muscle memory is a massive thing with strength training. Like a lot of the time, you're probably quite strong in an area, but me personally, like you don't have the confidence to do it, like the movement, because your body's like, well, I know how to engage these muscles in this way. Like,
well, that's it.
Like a squat's a massive one. Like you get to the bottom of a squat, sometimes you think, I've got to push this back up with my legs. Like, you're surprised how strong your legs are, really. But it's just having that confidence to get the weight from down here when you're in that position where if you can't lift that, you're stuck.
Like, oh yeah, definitely.
And having the sort of the capacity for your brain to be like, right, this is what we're doing, straight up. There you go.
Yeah, and of course some of it's nervous system as well, isn't it? You know, your brain's ability to like fire the signal, and your muscles' ability to interpret what that signal means and just go. You know, like that explosiveness. But yeah, that's a really good point as well, mate. You know, like you say, if you're always working at your 1 rep max, your muscles and your nervous system just burn out and get tired, which is where the idea of kind of like a deload week or even a rest week sometimes comes in. And like Hatham mentioned, sometimes you'll then come back round, or your client will come back round and actually be stronger after a little bit of rest or a little bit of sort of like reduced intensity. You know, so it's like you say, I always liken it to a car. If you've always got your car on the red line, you know, sooner or later something's going to give, you know, ease off a little bit, you know, not wrong with a little bit of coasting from time to time. You know, so give it a bit of a break.
Like say 90%. So what would that, if we did 70, like I gave the example, so that would be what, like 63 kilos?
Something, yeah.
That's still not going to be like easy. Like you're not going to be sitting in the gym if your 1 rep max is 70. You're not going to be lying down on the bench and just throwing the 63 up. Like, it's still going to be, you're going to be getting a good workout. Like, it's just challenging enough to sort of to push you. But the biggest mistake I've ever made was just trying to hit a PB every single week. Like, can I get the 1.25 plate on either side, and can I push it? And yes is the answer, but not for very long. Like, that'll last maybe a couple of months, and you'll hit a complete like wall where you just your body is just like dying on its feet every time you try to pick a weight up.
Your form might suffer, your technique might suffer. You know, you're going back the next week, and you know you're not fully right from the week before, or it's accumulating, and you're getting burned out. That is when your elbows will start to dip or flare or whatever it is, and you're not working through the same range. You know, so essentially your 1 rep max is null and void now, because you're doing the same exercise, but you know you're doing it in a different way.
So I got really like into deadlift. And I ended up giving myself a pinched nerve in my shoulder because I was just trying to up the weight, and I think I got up to 167. I got up to, and I didn't do it for a couple of weeks, and I came back and tried to jump back in at like the same weight, and I went to like pull it up, and like you say, I wasn't lifting with my legs as much and my back. I was sort of like trying to pull with my upper body, and I just felt this like it just felt like, and I was like, oh no.
Really, yeah. And I immediately regret my decision.
And there was just like loads of inflammation, and when I went to the doctors, they were like, yeah, your shoulder's not moving the same way because it's all inflamed inside, it's all swollen, and that's pressing on a nerve, which was then giving us loads of problems with my hand because I couldn't grip the same way. I had no strength in this arm, so I couldn't even do like a bench press. Like, I was doing a bench press, and this side was dipping because I couldn't hold the bar up.
Really?
The nerves were all misfiring. Just not doing stupid stuff like that when you're doing strength training specifically. Like, there's that, because you're lifting like your maximum, like you're pushing yourself to the very limit. You're always on that edge of injury if you're an idiot like me and you want to push as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. You know, so again, when we're thinking about it, if we were putting a program together for a client, you know, we only want strength training kind of in phases, with like in waves. You know, I've put clients through a program before where they'll do sort of 4 weeks strength training, 4 weeks sort of conditioning, and then I don't know, they might do 4 weeks sort of functional sort of stuff where they're sort of trying to bring it together. You know, they're talking maybe tire flips, sled pushes, all of that sort of stuff. They're going to kind of use like a mix of both. Like I say, when it comes to like literally muscular strength training and training to a failure 1 rep max, I certainly wouldn't do for maybe more than 4-6 weeks tops, maybe. You know, before you definitely want to be thinking about a rest week. Not necessarily saying, right, I'm going to focus on endurance now or whatever, but definitely take a bit of a break, deload or whatever it's going to be before you push on. Because like Hatham says, you know, it's a surefire way to run yourself or your client into the ground for sure. But yeah, coming back to monitoring muscular strength, I would definitely say something quite handy. I mean, depending on the person's goals again, if they wanted stronger, if they wanted to be stronger on the upper body, putting somebody on the leg press and saying, right, say how much you can shift on like for 1 rep, it's not really sort of applicable to what it is that you're trying to test. But of course, if someone was saying to me, look, I want to work on my legs, I want my legs to get stronger, a good place to start would be, right, let's get you on the leg press and see where we can sort of max out for 1 rep max. And then, like I say, that 1 rep max training is probably the best way that we've got for testing our muscular strength. For sure, yeah. But really good point off Hatham there. Like, it can't all be strength training, can it, buddy?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm just me camera's frozen on Zoom and gone off. So
no worries, mate.
I still have audio, but we have no video for myself anymore. It's decided it's gone.
That's it. It's just done for the day.
Yeah, it's panicking.
Just checked out.
It's 1 rep max itself straight off the. Just take it easy, and especially when you're getting back in. And I think the main problem is, like, people, you want to do everything. Like, to be as physically fit as you possibly can be, you do need strength, you do need endurance, you do need cardiovascular fitness, and it's possible to have a good level of them all. Yeah. I would say, but it's just tough.
Definitely.
It's tough to achieve because you have to be quite smart in the way you train. You
Yes.
can't just, go all out every session and blast everything you can possibly do, because it'll catch up with you.
Yeah. Definitely, like you say, it's that sort of holistic training approach, isn't it? Where you do want a little bit of everything. 95% of us just train and go to the gym so that the rest of life is a little bit easier. We move better, we last longer, joints last longer, our posture's better, we feel better throughout the day. So, you don't necessarily have to just do strength training or just do sort of like endurance training. Like I say, a lot of the people that get some of the best results outside of the gym are actually people that sort of have this holistic training approach, because they're not just focused on, right, I need to get in and run faster every week or lift a heavier weight every week. It's a case of, okay, me strength's really improved over the last 4 weeks. Do I take a bit of a break now and work on something else, Whereas I think it's easy to get into the mindset of, when you're training for gym performance and that is your main driving force, it's easy to get sort of tunnel vision on one thing.
Yeah.
I think, to be like, okay, like every gym's got like the strong guy or like the strong guys, or sort of like the cardio treadmill bunnies that just come in and just live on the treadmill and stuff like that, and they just want to run faster all the time. They're probably more focused on coming down and beating their numbers from last week, but they're not necessarily training with that sort of all-encompassing holistic approach that is going to sort of maybe help with the majority of sort of stuff outside the gym. Yeah, it's gonna help sort of other areas of their life, but it's not as holistic as it might be, So again, just thinking about why you're training. Of course, if you're training to just feel good in day-to-day life, feel good about yourself, comfortable in your own skin, there's no need to stress so much about, I need to be faster every week. I need to be, or in that case, I need to be lighter every week, and I need to be losing weight every week. It's about rounding yourself, kind of as a person, and kind of in an athletic kind of sense as well, So
even just a functional way, like you might be struggling to like move or whatever it is, like or you might be too heavy, like you might need to physically lose weight. Or you might need to physically put weight on. Some people are underweight.
100%.
Like saying, it's obviously all your goals, isn't it?
That's it. That's the thing, and that's where, like I've mentioned before, and I'll never drop any names, but I've worked with PTs over the years that have got like a program rather than personalizing to their clients. So they're like, right, week 2 is this.
Yeah.
Week 2, session 1 is this, whether you're kind of a 21-year-old lad or a 45-year-old woman. And I was a little bit like, okay, so yes, it's a different way of marketing, it's a different way of selling yourself, but it's not personal training. It's not. How can it be? How can it be? You're not looking at anybody's individuality and planning around them or their goals, So that's going to inform the majority of what you do, your clients' goals, which is why sort of not only listening to them and sort of trying to get as much information from them as you can, but helping them relax and feel comfortable around you is the best way to sort of work with somebody, find out what they really want, what their driving force is, and to really tailor stuff to them. If you don't have a very good relationship with your client and they're a little bit standoffish or they're maybe not comfortable with certain things, it's going to be a little bit like it's going to be harder to personalize, because they're not going to be as sort of forthcoming with information that might actually help inform what you need to do with them. Like I say, I've had people 6 weeks into programs that have been like, oh, do you know what, this is really going to help me at work because I'm really struggling at work. People who work on a hospital ward, who are leaning over people in beds all day long, to maybe get over the top of them or even lifting them on and off of beds. You find a lot of lower back problems. And I'm like, okay, so you said you wanted to be stronger, and we've been doing strength training when really what you really want to do is to be able to just lean over people in bed without your back screaming at you all day long. We're talking a little bit of mobility, a little bit of endurance, and a little bit of strength training as a mix of that, Now, of course, that's not on the client. They don't necessarily know the difference between strength for I don't want my back to give in as halfway through a shift, and strength as in, oh, I want to go to the Olympics and do some like clean and jerk or clean and snatch or whatever it's going to be, you know, or 1 rep max on the deadlift. So you've got to be aware of that sort of it's not a language barrier, but it's just the way that you use terminology and the way that you've learned terminology. The client doesn't understand that to the same level that you do, or they don't necessarily. You know, you will get some people that are really clued up, you know, who really do know their stuff. But then, like I say, you're going to have people that when they say, oh, I want to be stronger, what they really mean is they want to be more toned. They want their body to still be supporting them at the end of an 8-hour shift, rather than, yeah, I want to be able to chuck a load of 20s on the end of a barbell and do a big old deadlift, you know. So we're thinking about that as well. And again, you know, we're going to get onto it in just a little bit. But when we're thinking about making our client feel comfortable, that's not just obviously for your reputation and for repeat custom and stuff like that. It actually helps you do your job a lot better. You know, being able to have that relationship and finding out little sort of bits of information that really are quite important, but maybe the client didn't understand that, you know, and it comes with just breaking down some of those barriers. Okay, guys, so the one that we've got on the screen there, and the last of our physical components, is our body composition, you know. And of course, we all come in different shapes and sizes. There is no correct body composition at all, you know. There is no there's no right and wrong way, you know. I always look at it in terms of the sacrifices that you've got to make, because of course the lower you want your body fat percentage to be, the more sacrifice you're going to have to make more often than not. You know, how strict you need to be on your diet, how often you need to exercise. Do you realistically, you know, someone who can only train 3 times a week, and yeah, like I say, you're just training so that your body sort of lasts longer throughout the day, you're not getting pains and niggles and stuff like that. Does that client or does that person need to be thinking to themselves, right, I need to be 6% body fat? Absolutely not. You know, if someone was training for a physique competition or a photo shoot or something like that, or potentially even a holiday or a wedding, that is when you might want to be thinking about, okay, we're going to set this sort of body fat percentage as a goal to work towards. I've never done it personally, you know. I've always just said, look, as long as the number on the scales is coming down, or you know, your clothes are fitting you better, you know, you're maybe dropping body fat but you're gaining weight, so the scales aren't really giving you a full idea of what's going on, but your body composition is actually improving. That's the way that I've always done it, you know. Or maybe it's even I guess one of the main ways to test and monitor body composition would be like skin fold calipers. I don't know if you've ever seen them, buddy, or if you guys have ever seen them. It's pretty much like, it's a set of tweezers, pretty much. That's going to nip like a nip a part of the body, and then of course, however much sort of body fat is nipped between them, it's going to tell you in sort of millimeters or whatever it is, and then you can say, okay, around the midriff, you know, sort of just above the hip, we've got 20 or we've got 2 centimeters of body fat there. And then of course, as you go through your program, you can do that measurement again, and we can see, oh, okay, you know, there's less there now. There's less sort of millimeters of fat there than there was beforehand, you know. Now again, do you know what? In order to be a body fat level where there's going to be nothing to pinch, you've got to be really, really low body fat percentage, you know, in order for there to be nothing to grab. So exactly, that's it, you know. So let's not be thinking to ourselves, okay, if we've got enough fat to nip, that means that our body composition is not good enough and it needs to come down, because, you know, I'm really sort of conscious of what we call sort of like body dysmorphia and stuff like that, and of course how that can lead into different mental health issues and stuff like that, becoming so obsessed with our actual body composition, our sort of how much fat we've got, you know. I've seen it across the years. People become so sort of consumed by just the number on the scales, and of course we all know that the way that media is these days, and social media in particular, you know, it is contributing to a lot of stuff to do with sort of eating disorders and stuff like that. So we do really need to be aware of the fact that there's no right and wrong body composition. You know, it's just a case of, does your body composition suit you and the way that you are trying to be, and the sort of the exercise that you need to do or are trying to do, you know. I've had clients before where I've done sort of circumference measurements. So, and again, something that I want to mention later on, and I may as well sort of chuck it in there now while I'm on. So if you've got a client that has come to you for weight loss and you want to check their body composition, but you're trying to make them feel relaxed and comfortable, the last thing that wants to come out of your mouth, first of all, is, right, I'm just going to grab this bit of your side and tell you how much fat's there. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it is something that I don't know whether, it's something that you'd maybe become a little bit more numb to the longer that you do it. But do you know what? It wasn't really something that I'd really considered until I was doing my PT course, and the guys that put me through my course actually mentioned this exact thing. You know, if someone's coming to you because they're not very happy with their body, the body image, or you know, their body's performance, the last thing you want to do is really sort of make them even more conscious about the thing that they're already potentially conscious about and that has dragged them to the gym, you know. So I always went of the assumption of, if there's more than an inch to pinch, I would always do the circumference measurements instead, because if you get someone's weight on the scales and it says like, oh, that person's 10 stone, and then in 4 weeks' time they get on the scales again and it says, oh, that person is still the exact same weight, that might be really disheartening.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if I can do circumference measurements around, say, the top of your arm, inner thigh, hips, waist, wherever it's going to be, if I can look and say, okay, you're the same weight, but you've actually sort of dropped, I don't know, 18 inches or 18 centimeters, across the body in terms of body fat overall, we know that you're making progress and you're moving in the right direction. Yeah. You know, your body composition is improving because you weigh the same, but, you know, there's less of you sort of thing, you know. So that is where we come into the old muscle weighs more than fat, you know. So you can actually end up heavier than when you start your training program, but you can actually you actually end up heavier, but you're in better condition because the mass that you've gained and stuff that's telling you your weight is actually measuring muscle now, you know. So yeah, body composition is a little bit of a misleading one, because, you know, we all get into the idea that we need to look like the people on the front of sort of magazines and exactly, mate, you know,
whatever the one is.
Yeah, and before we do move on, I do just want to mention that the people who look like that on those days for the photo shoot, it's all timed around looking the best on that day. They don't want to look their best the day before or the day after. They want to look the best on that day.
And those it's all studio shot and lit and edited photos.
Edited, yeah. And remember, those people don't look like that year round.
No.
It's pretty much impossible to look like that year round. And do you know what? I'll even go as far to say as it's not healthy to look like that year round.
No, definitely not.
You know, in terms of longevity and helping your body actually recover. If you're going to try and live at sort of 4% body fat, there's only so long you can do it for sure. I mean, you even look at professional bodybuilders and what they call the off season, you know, which is their time to bulk and maybe build some mass and have some extra calories. And do you know what? The first thing that comes is, of course, the abs fade a little bit, and you know, muscle definition fades a little bit. So again, body composition's never really going to stay in one place. It's going to fluctuate with your lifestyle. Which is, of course, when we come round and say your results will only last as long as your habits do and your behaviors do. You know, if you do a training program that gets you into a really good position sort of physically, and then you go back to your old habits, you know, sooner or later your body's going to look how it used to again, you know. So use that as your driving force a little bit as well. But it's always going to change, you know, your body composition, and there are a couple of different ways we can do it, you know, like I say, be it skin fold, be it circumference measurements, and there's even scales out there now that you'll get on barefoot and they'll be able to tell you sort of your body composition, how much water are you carrying, how much of you is sort of fat, how much of you is bone, how much of you is mass. You know, some really clever bits of kit out there. But of course, if you're doing your first fitness test with your client, your chances are not going to have one of those handy. So we need to know how else we can do it. Now, again, you know, even just moving away from skin fold and just thinking about sort of circumference measurements.
Yeah.
we're thinking again, you know, how we're interacting with our client, where we're actually putting our hands on them, and again making sure that they feel comfortable, even giving them a heads up before you even start. Do you know what I mean? If you can say to them, look, we're going to be doing this throughout the course of your fitness test, are you still happy to sort of proceed, sort of thing, rather than catch them like a rabbit in the headlights and say, okay, you've done your run, very good, you know, I've made you sweat, you're even more conscious than when you very first came in the gym, now I need to sort of measure you here, and here.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I've got to get all up in your personal space.
Grip
You know,
touch you, and no
exactly.
good really, but it is what it is.
Exactly. You know, there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it. You know, and I think the right way to do it sort of bears in mind the fact that your client's probably not the most comfortable with it, especially the first time you're doing it, and of course, sort of realizing that the first time that you're working with somebody new as well, it might not be the most comfortable experience either, you know. So of course you've got to go into it and both be on the same page of what to expect, and that can certainly make the process a little bit easier for a new client. Like I say, just giving them the heads up and saying, look, this is what we're going to be doing, sort of thing. Are you still happy to go ahead? But yeah, like I say, just to finish up on body composition again, just another note of your body composition doesn't define you, your abilities, or anything like that at all. You know, I've seen people who have got a different body composition to me, you know, who are maybe carrying an extra 5, 10, 15% body fat, who are just as fit, you know, if not potentially fitter.
Yeah.
You know, there's no direct correlation between your body composition and your fitness. You know, definitely not. So yeah, that is just something that I always do like to mention, because like I say, we all come in different shapes and sizes. What's an ideal body composition for one might not be ideal for somebody else, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, guys, so rolling on, we're getting there. So 5 components of skill related fitness. Again, some of these you're going to have some clients that you need to measure them, some of them you don't. So for our skill related fitness, we've got our agility, balance, coordination, power, and reaction time. Yeah. So going on to that next slide, looking at agility. So it is the ability of a sports performer to quickly or precisely move or change direction without losing their balance. You know, so again, talking about like dancers, they need to do it quite a lot, you know, change direction on the spot. Certain sports need you to do it as well, you know. I'm guessing you've probably played a little bit of 5-a-side and 11-a-side over the years, buddy. You know, now, if 5-a-side, how much more often are you changing direction and just sort of pulling off in a different direction, either to try and find a little bit of space, or even just sort of tracking back because no sooner have you had a shot on goal, the opposition's got the ball and you've got to get back on sort of defence.
No, definitely.
Because, you know, you maybe don't have just the ability to walk back to the halfway line and say I'm as far back as I need to go, sort of thing. So there is a lot more sort of change in direction. Certain stuff like rugby, American football, of course, the more agile you are, the harder you are to hit. Tennis and squash and anything like that, where, you know, you maybe needing to react to what the other person's doing, like in opposition to you, and then of course you've got to change direction to get into the right place. To tie another one in there's a little bit of reaction time in there as well when we're thinking about it in that context.
Yeah.
Because you can only react to where the ball's going to be once the other person sort of hit it or served it, and then of course you've got to be agile. So arguably the worse your reaction time is, potentially the more agile you are, can hopefully make up for that a little bit as well, you know. But yeah,
like normal activities like driving for your reaction time, and I suppose, like, you know, just being in, like, the walking down the street, like, if you've got any of these, like, you know, you're doing all right, you can move suitably, you can react to things that happen, you can cross the road, like, it's all stuff that you need to do, like, your everyday activities. Like, if you don't have balance, you're just gonna fall over all the time.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? You're walking down the stairs and you're just gonna take an absolute, you're gonna stack it. You know, if you don't have agility, if you're walking down the street and like I say, like, someone comes flying past you on a bike and you can't get out the way of them, you're not agile enough to change direction, like, you're gonna get hit by it, or whatever it is. Like, coordination, like just doing the basic motor tasks, using your mouse and keyboard, using your phone. Your brain think knowing it has to do something and telling your body to do it, basically.
Yeah, of course,
Like you were saying about the muscle memory thing, it's all your nervous system. It's like how quickly can you... It ties into your reaction times. Like they're all sort of balanced
yeah.
on, and they're all...
Oh, definitely, mate.
You
Yeah.
do them all every day. You use every one of them every single day.
Yeah, that's the thing with these. Yeah, you tend to use them all, like you say, day to day. And like I say, these things I've come across from time to time in terms of being sort of goals and sort of targets and aims for people in the gym. You know, I haven't had a lot of people come to me over the years and said, you know what, Rob, I want to be a little bit more agile.
Yeah.
But it does happen, you know. So of course, there's different ways that we can test agility as well. You know, I love it when you see like on, you know, like when you see the dogs doing the agility on crufts and stuff like that. Or mate, when they're running zigzagging between like the sticks.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing some of the training that they do and some of the speed that they get up. And there's obviously similar stuff you can do with people as well, potential clients. Have them moving in and out of cones, changing direction. Like I used to do, rather than doing sort of like straight, like up and down linear sort of cone touches and cone shuttles.
Yeah.
I used to have mine sort of zigzagged. So they would go from, they'd run out of the first cone, and then the second cone was placed sort of off sort of northeast from there.
Yeah.
You know, so that they would need to move in that direction, almost kind of like forward moving, crossed with a crab walk as well, and moving sideways.
Yeah.
So that they're moving in a way that isn't natural to them, sort of day to day. You know, I wouldn't be the first thing that you'd go to. But when it comes to agility, that's normally what we're doing day to day, finding ourselves moving through patterns and ranges that we wouldn't normally do. Yeah, definitely.
But, I
you
mean,
know,
you can sort of, even just doing something basic like having 4 cones and having them all different colours, and then have someone, you stand in the middle, have someone call out the colour. You'll start to realise how poor your reaction time and agility can get.
Definitely, mate. Yeah.
Your brain has to compute what colour you're going to, and then where is that?
and then you've got to get there. Yeah, of course.
Around, and then you know you might have gone one way, so you've actually got to change direction, go the other.
Yeah. Say that quite a lot in again stuff like I say, American football and rugby and stuff like that. Even the basketball, to be honest, they look like they're going to be in one place, and then there's somewhere else. I guess boxing as well, and combat sports as well. You know, if you can sort of, little body feint, and have your opponent punch thin air instead of your front teeth.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing all right. It's gonna serve you quite well. So yeah, agility can come in quite handy in ways that we don't necessarily think about. You know, it's not something that is as straightforward as say, oh, do you know what? I do want to be a little bit stronger. I'm going to go and do some muscular strength training. Yeah, but it is a skill that we use, and it is something that we can test. You know. Okay, buddy. So spinning on to the next one, we've got balance now. Kind of like the old sobriety test. If you get pulled over by the police, that's a balance test more often than not, isn't it? You know, to tell how if you're under the influence. Yeah, but there's a load of different ways. Again, we can sort of test balance. Again, depending on why we need to test it, the client's goals. Again, like I've mentioned before, there was the blind lady that I used to train, that I used to get to stand on a wobble board pretty much, but she would hold both my hands and use my voice as a reference point, because obviously she had no visual reference point. And when it comes to balance, obviously that's really quite important. So she'd use my voice as a reference point. Yeah. And then gradually, you know, I would be able to say, right, just hold one of my hands now, or sort of just touch my hand rather than gripping it. And then eventually she would move up to not holding my hands at all, and I would still just be in front talking, you know. So she had that sort of reference point, and at the same time she had the confidence that somebody was there to catch her, or, you know, she could get hold of something if she needed to. My hands were always there, and she knew where they were, and she just didn't need to grab hold of them eventually, which is, of course, saying to me that balance is getting that much better, you know. So when it comes to balance, we've got 2 different types of balance. So we've got static balance, which is something like a handstand. And then we've got dynamic balance, which is staying balanced through a cartwheel, a somersault, all of that sort of thing. So while we're moving, really, you know, static balance, you know, you're going to see quite a lot in even stuff like yoga, to be honest. You know, when you're in like like a strange position, or you know, you really need to stabilize yourself. You know, you see it on the balance beams, you know, in the Olympics and the gymnastics and that side of things.
Yeah.
And then of course, like you say, you've got like your dynamic balance, which is everything from, you know, Tom Daly doing like a dive off the diving board to you know, even in terms of sort of pole vaulting and stuff like that, there's control over where your sort of center of gravity is, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, and sort of being able to control that. So again, you know, we can actually it's harder to measure as sort of like strict like quantitative data in terms of balance, but at the same time you can put somebody on a wobble board and chuck a football at them and say, right, catch this. Do you know what I mean? And use that to assess, you know, how well coordinated they are. Again, you know, Haytham, like you said a second ago, they do all sort of tie in with each other, especially when we're bringing in forms of testing, you know. But again, can I eventually move to maybe throwing something a little bit heavier, or putting them on an even more unstable surface, you know, and just to test that balance as well, you know. And again, it might even start with something simple like trying to get them to stand on one leg, because of course when you've got 2 feet on the floor, you've got 2 points of contact. It's more natural to balance. Now, when you lift 1 foot, you've only got 1 point of contact with the floor, and muscles higher up the leg, like up in the hip and up in the glute, need to stabilize to stop the hip sort of rocking from side to side.
Yeah.
And you'll actually feel that sort of kick in, or you'll feel that effect or that sensation if you do just try standing on one leg, you know. So again, it's trying to assess where your client is in terms of ability and sort of come down from there. The worst thing I could have done, you know what I mean, with Dot the blind lady, would have been to say, right, stand on one leg. You know,
Bye.
as opposed, see you later. I'll come back in 5 minutes, see how you're doing, sort of thing. Like them, like them sort of initiations in a tribe, you know, where you see where they've got to stand on top of like the old totem pole for 24 hours. That's different balance altogether. But you know what? Again, thinking about where your client is.
I mean, I suppose any activity where you're lifting something is you are static balancing. Like if you're not when you're moving with it, but if you're passing something to someone, for example, especially like above your head, if you're lifting a box up or to put it on a shelf, or if you're on ladder, say, and you're reaching to get something off, you're using all your core muscles and your legs to balance, but you're doing it while you're moving as well.
Yeah.
And if you've got a strong core, you'll be able to take quite a bit of weight in that. You know, like passing something down out of a loft hatch or off the top shelf or whatever it is. Like if you've got a strong base, strong legs, strong core, you'll be all right. But if someone passes you something and it's too heavy and you haven't got the strength or the indeed the balance to, like, I don't know, you've had a broken ankle and it's like really weak. That's going to be the first thing that goes. Like that's going to be the point where your balance breaks because it's weaker on that side. So you're like lopsided.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And like you say, that's when you're going to get stuff like, especially if you're doing a day-to-day and it is part of your job or something like that. It's where you do start to develop like back pain and stuff like that, just because your core isn't necessarily strong enough to take the weight and to adapt to the change in balance that's required now that you've picked up other weight elsewhere, you know.
Or your lifting technique's poor from the floor.
Yes, of course.
You're not engaging. You, like you were saying, like your base of support isn't set to pick that up. So when you move, everything's moving with you. And really, if you're picking something up from the floor, you should be quite set before you pick it up.
Yeah,
you don't want to you don't want to have your back bent and going through like like an arch. You don't want it moving through that. You want to be keeping yourself quite, like, tighten your abs up, tighten your back up a little bit, so taking the weight.
Definitely. You don't want to start a squat, get halfway through the squat, and then start thinking about getting yourself balanced.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, you get yourself set.
And if you're not, you'll sharp find out that actually something else is taking the weight, and it really shouldn't be.
Yeah, definitely. And
you'll hear a little pop or a little crack, and you'll be like,
usually too late. Yeah, definitely. But balance is one that, like Haytham says, we're doing it all day, every day. It's just a case of how well we do it and how well we adapt to new taking on new load, pretty much. wherever that might be it a barbell on your back or be it a box that you're trying to hold out in front of you. The principle's kind of the same.
I suppose the other thing is some people have health-related issues with balance as well. If you've got if you're ill, for starters, if you've got illness, but some people have inner ear problems.
Yeah, some tablets can throw your balance off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's
some
all sorts of
medication.
issues with it's nothing to do with your muscles or your body per se. It's more, well, it's not like your joints or anything. It's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
your brain or your nervous system or like your inner ear.
yeah. It's your body responding to stimulus from the outside, really,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah, definitely,
And
mate.
there's certain mental health conditions and stuff that can affect your balance as well as your vision and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I've clicked on the wrong thing, but I know you can get vertigo, for example, where that affects your balance massively, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely,
It's just a
definitely.
sensation, so it's not like anything that's physically wrong with you. It's like a problem with your inner ear. That one can be an infection, or some people just have it.
Yeah,
It's weird.
weird old feeling. Weird
Yeah.
old feeling. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so if you certain types of tablets, like you were saying, could affect your balance. But if you've got a good base of support, that'll help. It'll affect you less, basically. The
Yeah,
effect will be far worse if you've also got poor balance because of a weakness in your back or whatever.
yeah, yeah. And again, that's not to be said that a little bit of training specific to balance work couldn't necessarily improve it to a degree as well.
Yeah.
You're not always necessarily limited by an illness or a condition or something like that. There is still room for improvement in certain cases. It's just a case of how big that room for improvement is, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Right, buddy. We've got a couple more of these to do then, and then we'll roll into the next bit. So if we go next slide, then please do. We've got coordination. So it's the smooth flow of movement needed to perform a motor task efficiently or accurately. Same again stuff that me and Haytham mentioned earlier on. It's stuff like any kind of racket sport. It's the bit that I always struggled with most, to be honest. Like I always had the agility to be in the right place when it came to squash and tennis. I'd go to whack the ball and just miss it altogether. So yeah, in that sense, you're only as good as your coordination, really. But then you can sort of take that, sort of bring that one step further back and say your coordination. It's obviously controlling where your feet are going when you're walking. Controlling sort of are your hands going where you're telling them to. Obviously, hand-eye coordination comes in massive in
driving, using your phone, using a computer. It's all coordination, especially when you're doing tasks that you can do without thinking about, like typing, for example. Like putting your indicator on when you're driving.
Yeah. Knowing where the gear stick is without needing to look down every time. Like that sort of thing.
Your brain knows that motor task so efficiently that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And that's what the coordination for athletes is. That's what's like take a snooker player. I know they're not technically an athlete. I would say maybe the sportsman. We'll give them that. But
sportsman, yeah, we'll put them up there.
Darts players as well. The level of coordination that they've got, and the level of the brain just understands that motor task of okay, I've got to throw this dart, or okay, I've got to line the ball up like this, and I've got to hit it with a cue. But the power or the lack of power, if it's a shorter shot or if it's a safety shot or whatever, it's all just tuned in, so they know what they have to do, and their body just does it. They're not, they are thinking about it. They're sort of, okay, I need to hit a treble 20 or whatever, but they've done it so many times over and over and over and over again that the body just can just do it.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, definitely. And like you say, certain things do become more sort of ingrained and like you say, sort of like muscle memory.
Yeah.
For sure, I'm the majority of us don't really need to think about putting one foot in front of the other as we're walking down the street, because we've done it for X amount of years.
Yeah.
And then you'll know yourself, you pick up something new that you haven't done before, and you're trying to think about doing all the different bits all at the same time.
Yeah.
Video games require some coordination
Definitely.
as well, don't they? Even if it's using both analog sticks or, sending the right signal into the game.
It's funny you mention that, because a lot of video games when they first started out, that was one of the things. It was improving reaction times and coordination. hand-eye coordination in a game is like, if you see the people who are like the best in the world on the game, like how fast they can, how many actions they can do within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And again, that's all coordination. Like they're doing it with a mouse and keyboard a lot of the time, but without even, they're not thinking about what buttons they're pressing. They're thinking about what that does in the game. That's like a pathway that's just programmed into their mind. If I press this will happen. But
Yeah,
they're not thinking
definitely.
about it. They're just doing it. Like,
Yeah. Do you know what one always gets me as well? The triple jump, the coordination for the triple jump, the old hop, skip, and the jump.
Yeah.
Like our dad used to always, my feet just used to get tangled. Like, and I was never very good at it, to be honest.
Even like your weightlifters. So if you watch someone do like a clean and press, like they'll lift the bar up, they absolutely slam it with the quads, and then they catch it in a squat, and then they push up through that, and that's one move. It's not one movement, but that's one move in like a weightlifting competition.
Yeah.
But if you break it down, it's 3 separate things.
Yeah. I tell you what, that's a good point, mate. Actually, and maybe some more.
I'll pull up
maybe some more
quickly. Hang on.
Yeah. I've seen that with people with burpees, actually. Now you mention it.
Yeah.
The whole down, jump your feet back in, stand up and jump in the air. Like, there's a lot of different steps in there, isn't there? You know, and putting them together as seamlessly as you can is your coordination, really.
Clean and press. It's going to show you in slow motion, hopefully. But like, this is definitely coordination, because you're going to clean it. Yeah. So you're starting from the floor. Obviously, it's showing you the proper technique, but like, I mean, that itself is a movement there.
Yeah.
He hasn't quite landed in the squat there. Am I thinking of something different?
What we're watching, a clean and press.
Yeah. He's doing the slight dip, which is another movement, and then he's pushing the bar up again.
Yeah.
Hang on. Right, there we go. Hang on. There's one here where looks like they do all 3. Except I'm getting an advert for Slack, which I didn't really want.
Oh, mate. Internet's rife with adverts, mate.
Trying to skip through the video, but it's like crushing me computer big time. So he's explaining a bit from the floor, but I just want to see him do the full exercise. Is he going to do it? Or have I just wasted my time watching this video?
He's got to do it.
Oh, come on, bro. Just do the lift, man. What are you doing?
Do the lift.
He's like cheating. He's sort of dipping down and then not picking it up.
He's teasing you, mate. He's teasing you.
Not playing the game right. But yeah, anyway, it's 3 separate movements, really. And like that the level of coordination you need for that is quite high.
Yeah.
To be able, because it's a motor task, but that's like using your entire body to do that one.
Yeah.
And like you say, breaking it down into the little bits and then putting it all together is actually quite tough.
And it is pretty much your brain making these calculations and working them out faster than you can even think and realize that there's a calculation to be made, really.
Yeah, definitely. You know, at that speed of like a tennis ball flying at you, or like driving a car into a certain like corner at quite high speed, or you know, clicking a button on a mouse to make sure you shoot the other person in a game quicker than they shoot you.
Definitely, yeah.
It's all like, it's a coordination probably links quite the most heavy with reaction time. But when you watch someone train, like when you watch the tennis players train and that, like there's levels to it. So they'll do like the very smooth one where they're just hitting the ball and getting used to hitting it accurately, and then they'll do the quick ones where they're trying to just get it back because it's just as quick as you possibly can do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, there's the reaction time, and then there's having the coordination to actually and the agility as well, you know, to actually respond to whatever that stimulus is.
Yeah. So have you seen the like, it's like a big machine? It's normally at the arcades, but I think they use it in certain sports. It's like loads of light.
Okay, that you tap.
Yeah, and they just light up when you tap them.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called, but I'd love to have a go on them.
It'd be interesting. Be interesting to do. Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I mean, this website isn't the best. Like, but you basically just get a load of modules, they're called, and it's just a bunch of lights, and they light up, and you tap them as they come on.
As they light up, yeah.
And the videos that they've got on here, so I'll not play the videos because it was like lagging my computer to death, but they've got them on like a basketball board, on a floor mat, on a bit of pitch, on some like sticks that you can run around and touch. They can get stuck. You can stick them in the wall. You can put them in and around like ladders and stuff, or on top of cones. So like, it's just all that one way you could do like everything. I think you could probably train all the aspects we've talked about just with them.
Yeah, if you use them right, yeah, definitely. Especially these 5, you know.
Yeah.
Agility, balance, coordination, power, and reaction time. Yeah, for sure, definitely. Interesting bit of kit, them, to be honest.
Yeah, wouldn't mind having a go at some point.
Yeah. Right, buddy. If you don't mind rolling the next slide, then, mate.
Power.
Power. Yeah. I see pride. I see power. Okay, so power is the work done in a unit of time, pretty much. So it's the force in kilograms times by the distance that you've managed to move it, sort of divided by however long that has taken to do, pretty much. So it's a case of moving as much as you can, as far as you can, as fast as you can, pretty much. That's power, you know, which is usually, you know, what a lot of these power lifter guys are actually doing, you know, when they're doing stuff like when they're in the harness and they're doing like the rope pull with a 18-wheeler on the back and stuff like that, or they're pulling like an aircraft or something like that, you know. And then we've got like the guy that I've used in the image there is using battle ropes, which is a bit in the sand, you know, because why not? Now it's not anything that you think of straight away, and my mind kind of went to endurance first for battle ropes, because when you're doing them snakes up and down, your shoulders just burn. Your shoulders just scream at you, and they're like, oh, when can we be done? And normally it is those that are going to give in first. But I tell you what, the power to be able to sort of come up and still slam them on every rep, and not like just lift them and let gravity just like float them back down to the floor. Of course, you're actually putting the effort in there, you know, be it power might come from sort of like how hard you punch, if you're a boxer or somebody who's into combat sports, that sort of thing. You know, the old the old bag that you see in the pub, you know, where you hit it as hard as you can, it'll give you the old score and tell you how far that is. Like that sort of thing is actually a decent way of measuring sort of raw power. Not to say that the arcade's the best place to go for it, but a similar sort of premise we can actually use in some of our fitness testing, you know. Power as well, it might be stuff like we say when it comes back to the power lifts, it might just be lifting one weight or pushing a sled, you know, putting a load of weight on like a prowler or like them weighted sleds that you see.
Like when it says there force times distance, so is it like your power? Is it like your power is your like strength applied at speed, really, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
So, but you're using the distance to like measure it, pretty much. So that, like, you know, how far can you get this?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much to be like a little bit of almost like a little bit of a buffer for if like the weight changes. You know, it's obviously always still going to be like pretty relevant. Truth be told, I've never needed to monitor someone's power output. You know, I've never had anybody training specifically for that. But at the same time, of course, you can use stuff like battle ropes. Medicine ball slams is a really good one as well, you know, for slamming them onto the ground. Another one that I used to do we used to call like wall balls, you know, so you'll get like a medicine ball, you'll squat with it, and then you're going to stand up and sort of extend and push it as high, and the higher on the wall you can get it, obviously the more powerful you are through that range, at least, you know. So
and then take one of the tiles out.
Pretty much, till you bring the light down, or I've seen it done in gyms where the wall isn't suitable for that sort of thing, you know. And
I've hit yourself in the head with the medicine ball before, like.
Have you?
I've like caught it, and it's not. It's sort of like followed through and hit us in the head, and I was like, that wasn't very good. That, like.
Yeah. You've caught it and like slowed it down at best.
And it's like just dinked us a bit in the head. I'm like, maybe this is a bit too much.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that all of that sort of stuff is power as well, of course, you know. So again, there are ways that we can measure it, but it's never really been the main focus of anybody that I've trained over the years, for sure. And then we've got reaction time. On our last of these slides. So of course it's the time taken for a sports performer to respond to a stimulus and the initiation of their response as well. And the first thing I always think of when it comes to this sort of thing is like a goalkeeper. You know, if they're in goal, they've maybe sort of they can't commit to which way they're going to dive, you know, until a certain point in the shot's trajectory. You know, is it going to take a bobble? Is it going to take a deflection? Is it going to like skim off the surface of the pitch? You know, the players have got to be able to react to that, or the keepers have got to be able to react. And I mean, some of the training that I've seen them do with professional goalkeepers, they've essentially got like a big warped plastic wall with loads of bumps and bobbles and stuff like that on it, and they stand behind and throw the ball at this wall, and the keeper's got to react to wherever it hits and sort of make the stop, or at best, you know, catch the football as well, you know. And
lots of like they just keep kicking the ball at them even after they've made a save, like repeatedly within like a second of each other. How quick can you make a save, get up, make another save?
Or like a recovery save. Yeah, definitely, like that sort of thing. So it's those sort of sports where reaction time is going to come in to be most important, and it might be something that your client wants to work and develop. But of course, reaction time is something that I think we could all do to be sort of always sort of staying on top of, you know, because it is one of them things. It's like use it or lose it. The older we get, the more we naturally kind of slow down a little bit. So it helps to develop this kind of things. And again, it comes into play with stuff like your video games. You know, if someone's trying to shoot you, how fast can you get behind cover? How well can you sort of respond to a grenade that gets thrown in, or something like that. Again, you know, when it comes to sports, your reaction time is normally going to be reacting to other people around you. So you probably are playing some kind of combat or sort of team sport, really. I've never really seen anybody in the gym that needs, you know, where their strength training has suffered, like their muscular strength training suffered because of their reaction time. You know, it's not really anything that comes into play. But again, reaction time, it can save your life when you're in the car. Do you know what I mean? If you're out and about, you don't even have to be driving, to be honest. You know, you might just be out walking. And again, your reaction time does. You know, you see all them videos where you see like CCTV camera footage and someone's walking down the street. For whatever reason, they look up in the air and they have half a second to get out the way of like a ceiling tile or
a car coming down the road.
Anything, a wheel, like a runaway wheel that's come off a car or something like that, you know, rolls up onto the path and it can cause a lot of damage. So reaction time is something that's important outside of fitness as well. Like a lot of these skills are, you know, to be honest. But again, you know, when it comes to testing reaction time, we can use stuff like Hatham was on about a minute ago, where we've got like sort of light training. How fast can you get to this point? Again, can you stand in the middle and I'm going to shout out the colour and I want you to get to that colour as fast as you can, you know.
Or just like catching a ball, throwing and catching it. You can get the ball. You can get the ball where it's like it's not a round ball. It's like loads of different bumps on it. And when you throw it, it bounces in different directions. How quickly can you get to it?
I've done it with I've seen it done with lads who were training for proper in the ring sort of semi-pro professional boxing. You know, where they might be doing what the trainer used to do was throw a tennis ball at them from pretty much close range, and the guy had to punch it back to him. Which is, of course, not only reaction time, but really good coordination as well. You try punching a tennis ball that's coming at you at speed. It's easier said than done, you know. So there's a couple of different ways we can work, develop, and most importantly, sort of test and assess reaction time as well.
Definitely.
Cool. So I reckon that gives us a really good look into, again, sort of revisiting components of fitness, and not only sort of how we can test them and monitor them and develop them, but also why it's so important to, and again, where these come into sort of in day-to-day life as well, you know, because that's the aim of the game for most of us. It's all well and good to get over to do you know what I mean? Get over to the light and tap it a little bit faster when it comes on. It's something totally different if you see, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like your toddler's going to fall off the bottom stair, and you can get there in time to like get a pillow underneath them or something with the famous mum and dad reflexes that you see. But do you know what? It's something that's so important day to day, you know, and these are all skills that go a long way for us. I was just saying, Wib's getting in the chat. Afternoon, Wib. We're in the afternoon now. Hope you're all right, buddy. Yeah. Right, guys, because we're getting on to that time, we'll think about getting finished up as well. So we've got a few more slides just to run through. So if we can just spin on to the next one, please, buddy. You beat us to it, man. You beat us to it. Yeah. So I've sort of mentioned all of this morning so far, but I did just want you to obviously have a little bit of a recap and also so it was all in one place if you do want to come back and revise anything from today's session or revisit it without needing to sit through 2 hours or 2.5 hours. So pretty much, when it comes to testing fitness, there's a variety of methods we can use, either be it athletes, sports performers, or in this case, your hypothetical clients, ranging from, testing your resting heart rate, what's your heart rate doing, if you take your pulse or use your Fitbit or whatever it is to monitor what your heart rate's doing when you're not exercising. That can give you sort of like a rough idea how aerobically sort of fit you are. You'll find that somebody who does a lot of cardio fitness and who is more cardiovascularly fit might have a resting heart rate of 40, 60, somewhere around there. Someone who's a little bit more sedentary, who's not quite as fit, not quite as active, their resting heart rate might be working at around about 80, 90, maybe even 100, just because their CV, their cardio system isn't as efficient at getting the blood and the oxygen around the body, so the heart rate's working harder to do that, whereas in an athlete or someone who's a little bit more trained, your body can do that more effectively, so your heart doesn't have to work as hard, keeping that heart rate a little bit lower. Then we've got blood pressure as well. Blood pressure in a similar sort of way can give us an idea how fit we are, how much strain is on our heart as it pumps to send blood around the body, and then how much strain is on our heart or how much pressure within our blood vessels as the heart sort of expands again to carry out its next sort of squeeze and its next pump, so that's where our blood pressure comes in, letting you know. That's why we get our 2 numbers for our blood pressure. We've got our sort of pressure for while the heart's contracting and our pressure for while the heart's expanding as well. Now those, again, similar to resting heart rate, can give you an idea how fit you are without really doing very much. You don't need to go running and jumping and sitting and reaching and all of that sort of stuff to be able to use those sort of things to just give you a base idea. So that sort of stuff, your resting heart rate and your blood pressure will be really, really helpful when it comes to carrying out your own fitness testing on your client, because it's bits of kit that you can have or the gym might already have that you can just pull out and say, right, we're going to use these, and do it that way without needing to go, set up a room that you can do a bleep test in or something like that. Then we've got our avoid that. Avoid that one. Avoid that one like the plague. BMI, I've sort of mentioned before, and we've sort of shone a light on how sort of black and white it is, or lack thereof, really, in terms of actually helping you assess your own fitness. Someone who is an Olympic bodybuilder would be told that they're obese through the BMI scale just because they're heavier than their height says that they should be, really. At the same time, it can be a good idea. It can be a good indicator for Joe Public, who maybe isn't carrying an obscene amount of just lean muscle mass on them, to be able to work out where they are in terms of fitness. Are they overweight? Could they do a losing a little bit? Do they potentially need to put some weight on, which is the case for some people, and again, BMI, really sort of effective way, easy, cheap, to be able to just say, right, what's your height, what's your weight? Oh, according to this chart, you are whatever, again, you don't need like you don't need flashing sort of lights to check reflex times and stuff like that. It's a little bit easier to sort of carry out that sort of testing. One rep max, we've mentioned. It again, it doesn't really take much setting up. Try and make it relevant to your client's goals, of course. If you've got nobody who wants to get stronger, I don't know why necessarily you'd want to worry about a 1 rep max too much, unless it is like Hatham mentioned earlier on, to work out your 1 rep max. So you can say, for hypertrophy training, I want to be at about 80% of that, and doing it that way, But 1 rep max is a good way of just working out sheer strength. But yeah, it would just be for 1 rep. Really, through whatever range it is that you're going to pick. Sit and reach, we've talked about in terms of flexibility, sitting down, legs straight, reaching as far as you can. And the skin fold calipers I mentioned earlier on as well, about obviously just checking how much sort of body fat is in certain areas on the body. And again, when might be appropriate and inappropriate to really use that with a client. And again, just mentioning there one last time at the bottom, the method of testing selected should relate specifically to the component being tested. Like I'm always saying, if you want to work out someone's body composition, putting them on a 1 rep max and saying, right, lift this deadlift as heavy as you can, it doesn't give you any information that's going to be any good to you, really,
Yeah.
So again, just try and make it specific to what it is that you're actually trying to test, which should in turn be specific to what it is that you're trying to develop really throughout that client's sort of program or whatever it's going to be. Cool. Right, guys, so a couple of slides to go, so if we can just spin on to the next one, buddy. Not really anything to go through there. I just wanted to pick out a couple of bits of kit that you might not have seen, be it either like the way of checking like blood pressure, the cuff or the sleeve that goes around the arm. Of course, the woman top left, we can see she's using her finger to just check her pulse, nice and simple, nice and straightforward. And at the same time, she looks like she's got an actual fitness tracker on her wrist as well, that might actually be giving her a little bit more information. So there's some tech there, some equipment she can use. Of course, we've got like a stopwatch down below, even if it is just as simple as saying, right, I'm going to track how quick you can get round this circuit or wherever it's going to be. And then, of course, when we're checking somebody's mass, somebody's actual weight, we can use scales, as we see in the bottom right, normally bathroom scales or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I say, you can get proper scientific ones now that, are going to cost a little bit more, but they'll work out how much water retention you've got, how much muscle you carry in body fat, all of that sort of thing, like I mentioned earlier on, So, again, we've got equipment out there that can help us actually carry out this fitness testing. Some of the components and some of the ways that we test, we don't actually need anything for, and some of it could just be as simple as using 2 fingers to check your pulse on your neck or on your wrist, really,
Low tech.
Low tech, that's it, mate. Low tech. Love it. Suits me to the ground because I'm not a techie person, as you guys well know by now. Whip says, hope you've had a good session. Yeah, do you know what? It's flown over this morning. I can't believe what time it is, to be honest. When I checked the clock to say if we were into afternoon, yeah, I can't believe we're getting there.
Yeah.
It's brightened up over here a little bit as well, which I'll take.
Come out.
Saying to Daniel yesterday, I've been really lucky so far that every time the dogs needed to go out for a wee, it's been dry, not warm. I'm not going to say warm, but he hasn't experienced like torrential downpour yet. Yeah, so that is still to come. I thought that was going to be this afternoon, but it has cleared up a bit. So hopefully that's a way off by now. We will get a debut out of him. We will get a cameo from him.
First appearance.
He's elusive at the minute. We can't afford his appearance fee. No, what it is, Alex has started a course, so her course runs at the same time that I'm teaching. So in order to sort of get him out of his crate, wake him up from his nap, bring him up to say hi to you lovely folks, it's a little bit harder to do, but yeah, we will catch it one week where I'll get him up to say hi to everybody for sure. Cool. Right, guys, last couple of slides then. So carrying out a fitness test, we sort of mentioned it all morning. This is where we were building to. And of course, the theory is you're carrying out a fitness test, or sort of like the scenario is you're carrying out a fitness test on a client. How do we make them feel comfortable? How do we help them feel comfortable? How do we be professional? How do we maintain our reputation, build a reputation and establish one in the first place? So a couple of little bits to go through there. So, first of all, we want to demonstrate sort of throughout the whole experience that you're sort of truthful and trustworthy. To a degree, there might be a little bit of sugarcoating involved, but at the same time, you want to be pretty upfront with somebody and say, look, especially towards the end when you're getting results, you can say to somebody like, the BMI scale, it's a hard one when the BMI scale puts somebody down as obese. It's hard to turn to somebody and then say, right, you are, according to this, obese.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's always like the bearer of bad news sort of thing. At the same time, don't fill their heads with sort of the idea of, oh, do you know what, like, that's not really something that we need to worry about, or do you know what, because it's their health at the end of the day, and again, you can make you can make that assessment. At the same time, again, I've had people come to me and say, oh, look, I want to start doing squats, I want to do some really heavy squats, I want to do some deadlifts, stuff like that, and I've done a fitness testing and said, look, like, your core isn't in a place right now where I would put you on deadlifts. Like, we will get there, but I need to be honest with you and say that you're not going to be doing deadlifts for 4, 6, maybe even 8 weeks, you know, and same again, just be honest and upfront. It helps in the moment, and it helps that relationship going forward, so they don't say, right, I'm going to pay you for 10 sessions, I can't wait to start deadlifting, and they turn up for week 1 and you say, oh, we're deadlifting in 6 weeks because XX and because of this and this, by the way, no refunds. Do you know what I mean? You know, just be upfront, be honest, and again, I find that the more that you are like that and the more open you are with the client, the more they will open up with you, the more information you can actually gain from them, and it's going to make your job a little bit easier, you know, tying into the next point down that I've got. Listen to the individual, listen to what they're telling you. You know, even if while you're doing the fitness testing, can you have a little bit of crack with them about stuff that isn't the fact that you're measuring like around their waist at the minute, you know? Can you talk about sports that you might feel that you've got in common, or distract them talking about, have you got any kids, have you got any hobbies, that sort of thing, what do you do for work? Because of course it not only gives you information about them, but it really puts them in the spotlight as well. You know, one of the things that I got taught on my PT training was you want to treat everybody, or every PT client that comes through the door, treat them like a celebrity. Do you know what I mean? If you can have like do you know what I mean? If you can have the circuit laid out ready for them, if you're stood there with a smile and you're ready to greet them, you're expecting them, you know, maybe, of course it does. Like, even just simple little things, like if you know, and they've done a couple of sessions with you and you know that they have a pre-workout before every session, maybe just get it ready for them coming in. And they're like, oh, okay, this person's actually tuning into me and I'm building that relationship, you know. Can you find out about their lifestyle, their diet, their hobbies? Like I say, I've had people come into the gym and come up to me and say, look, Rob, I want to be more sort of aerobically fit. I'm like, oh, okay then. Like I can do that. I know how to test that. And only a few weeks into the program, you realize that the only reason that they want to do that is so that they can chase the grandkids around the garden and not get out of breath.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if I didn't know that piece of information, I'd have been leaning to more sort of stereotypical, traditional sort of aerobic endurance. I'd have had them maybe running a mile in what the best time they can do it. When really they only need like little short bursts of endurance, you know, 5-10 minutes at a time, which, you know, I can then, not to say that what I've been doing so far is wrong, but I can then hone the training in a little bit more, you know.
Definitely.
Can I have I found over the years I've found clients that have got a bad back and they're like, oh, it's just the right side of my lower back screams at this, I don't know why. And you know, you get 6 weeks into their training and you're like, oh, well, me new baby, this and this, and I'm like, okay, you've just had a new baby, you don't happen to sit with him on this knee all the time, do you? He's like, yeah, I do actually. It's like, well, there you go, we figured out why that side of your lower back's hurting. Do you know what I mean? Because again, you know what most of the time you know what you're looking for and the information that you need out of a client. The client doesn't know. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
the client
come to you, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, the client doesn't know to say, oh, well, yeah, I've got a big old heavy backpack that I take to work every day that sits on this shoulder, you know, which might have something to do with the fact that this side's absolutely screaming at us by the time I get home on a night. They're not in a position, or they're not necessarily guaranteed to make that connection. That's your job as the PT. And the more information you have, and by extension, the more relaxed people feel around you, the more information you're going to get, and the more you're going to be able to sort of make little tweaks and stuff like that. And like I say, really personalize.
They'll get a better result out of it as well, right?
Of course they will. Yeah, definitely. Goes without saying, mate. Yeah, 100%. Like it's working as a team, isn't it? Because that's what it is with the PT and the client. And I think a lot of some PTs that I've found over the years put all the responsibility on the client, like, oh, well, they didn't hit their goals because they were getting a takeaway every weekend, that's their fault.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As opposed to trying to dig into, you know, why they're getting a takeaway every week when they know it's affecting their goals is what you know I would have done. At the same time, you get some clients that put all the onus on the PT, you know, and be like, oh, well, I've got a PT, he'll do all the work, like this is going to be an easy ride for me, which isn't going to be the case either, you know. It's a two-way street, and do you know what? It needs to be an open communication both ways. And like I say, and like Haytham says, you'll get much better results, and you'll build a closer relationship. You know, maybe it's even friends for life. You know, I've got clients that I still speak to that I don't train anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know who you're going to meet.
Definitely.
Okay, so
never know.
Again, something that we mentioned last week when it came to inductions is handy to just mention again now. Knowing as much as you can before you meet the person helps make it easier to initiate and maintain a conversation while helping us better understand the person that we're working with. Again, if they've signed up for this fitness test and they've filled in a form, or you've maybe knocked up a survey that people can fill in while they apply for their fitness test, you can find out, do they have kids? What are they happy to disclose their job role, and then any hobbies, and then straight away, their name, and you've maybe got an idea before you even meet them what some of them subjects are that you can have a little bit of a talk about, and again, just breaking down their walls. For example, like I mentioned earlier on, if somebody's overweight and is signed up to lose weight, I'd go to use scales to track weight at first, at most circumference measurements, rather than going straight for the skin fold calipers and starting to nip them in their most sensitive bits, pretty much. These can make an already self-conscious individual more uncomfortable, and they might actually start to sort of withdraw into themselves a little bit, which is, like we're just saying there, it's kind of the opposite of what you want, really, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. So we'll go next slide, and then this is the last proper one that we've got to do before we just get into sort of tying things up at the end. Of course, being polite as you can. Manners cost absolutely nothing. Be welcoming. Look pleased to see them. Like, if you're sort of, because I had it before, when I was, like I say, I was given 10 of my hours every week to the gym, and they would have people signing up for fitness testing, for inductions and stuff like that. Like, if you get to 10 minutes into their half an hour session and you think to yourself, oh, they're probably not coming now, I've got time to sit and have a cuppa.
Yeah.
If you get yourself a cuppa and they come through the door, the last thing they want to see is you go, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, here they are, I'll just slam me coffee down. Do you know what I mean? It's not a good first impression, and it doesn't build that relationship. Again, we're trying to make these people feel special, and make them feel welcome and comfortable in an environment that they might not be feeling particularly uncomfortable walking into at the end of the day. Definitely. even just the gym in itself, good positive body language, It's one of them funny ones, because I always think of like arms folded as quite like a standoffish kind of posture, as I'm sure a lot of people do. But you know what? It's one of the most common PT stances I've seen. Just like I'm just going to stand there. I'm just going to watch what you're doing. As opposed to like, again, it's difficult with the way things are at the minute in close proximity, and I've got no idea how personal training would even work at the minute, but when someone walks in, can you shake their hand or something like that, even just like a little. I was always fond of the fist bump, do you know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. And it's just welcoming, but again, that body language, the way that you're conducting yourself. Don't be like, when they're finished on one machine, just be like, now then we'll go down to this one. This one's next. Yeah, no worries, buddy. You're trying to breed motivation into these people as well, so the more positive you are, the more sort of energetic you are, the more enthusiastic you are, the more that's going to come off, and that's going to rub off on your client as well, because you might just be there to carry out the fitness test today, but what you're also trying to do is show them why you're valuable, why your knowledge and experience is valuable, and what you can sort of offer them, and be that knowledge, be that structure, be that motivation. Those are the three things that I always used to try and make sure I was giving my clients. Some people needed more of others, less of others. Some clients I've had that really did know the stuff. They knew what they needed to be doing. They just didn't have the motivation without somebody expecting them at the gym who was going to do a session plan and get them in and make sure that they worked for that hour. Other people, they've got the motivation. They're like a Duracell bunny, but they just don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to get the most out of their training. So again, you've got to think about what value you're actually bringing to this person and their experience in the gym. Because of course, we're trying to make an exercise and fitness environment as welcoming, as encouraging as possible. So we're all happy being and trying to be a little bit more active and being fit and healthy as well. So then we've got being aware of personal space and hygiene. That's yours and theirs. Again, if you've just done a heavy session up in the gym, do you need to think about the shower? Do you need to have a little bit of like a half an hour break to maybe cool down in between before you sort of leaning over somebody, and sort of, again, all up in their personal space. Again, it was something, always have like a body spray, a deodorant in your bag, that sort of thing, just ready to go. Maybe it's aftershave or a bit of perfume if you'd rather do it that way. And again, you'd like to think that the person that's coming in for a fitness test will have considered their own hygiene as well. That's not always going to be the case. And again, then you're treading that fine line between saying to them like I say, that pushing through and getting it done and remaining professional, while at the same time being open and truthful and saying something along the lines of like, do you know what, you're going to be sweating quite a lot. Bring some deodorant with you, sort of thing, like a nudge, wink, wink, hint, hint, sort of thing. It is a difficult one. At the same time, it is something that you may have to deal with over the time. I've had to go and approach people in the gym before and say, look, I've had several complaints from different people about the smell, really, and it's not a position that I want to be in. It's not a position that the guy wanted to be in, but at the same time, hygiene's a big thing and is going to be a massive thing, especially as gyms go back to a little bit of normality as well. And then the last thing that we want to think about is, of course, confidentiality. You're getting results, personal information, data that they might not want anybody else to see, be that their weight, they might be telling you, I don't know, it might be sort of like a dress size or whatever it is that they don't want disclosing to everybody else. And that's stuff that you've got to keep to yourself as well. And if you are going to discuss it with anybody else, you've got to have permission really to do that. When I was early in my PT career, if I came across something that I was new to, or I needed to go and ask another PT for a bit of help, I would always say to my client, look, do you mind? I've not really come across this before. So-and-so I think is really clued up with this. I need to go and ask them, something about your training. Are you happy for me to go and do that? And just making sure that they are comfortable to do that. I had times over the years as well where I had, the gym had like an apprentice who was doing their level 3 PT, but they were doing sort of like cleaning and sort of just like maintenance work at the same time, to sort of like pay for the course.
Yeah.
Now, the gym used to ask me in those 10 hours that I was given for them, like, can this person shadow you and see how you do the job? Now, again, I was always happy to. I was always happy for people to come along, but I had to go and ask the client if they were happy to have somebody else sitting in on their session. Exactly the same as if you went to the doctors and they had a trainee, and they would just want it, and they'll say to you, do you mind if somebody sits in your appointment this afternoon? So we've got to think about it exactly the same. These people are opening up and giving information to you that is potentially quite sensitive to them. Not at the very least, date of birth, national insurance number, potentially all of that kind of thing, employment history. It's all stuff that, you've really got to sort of keep to yourself and keep it on hand for when you need to refer back to it. Because if someone gets 6 weeks into a program and says, oh, what was my waistline circumference when I started? And you're like, oh, I've binned it. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't look very professional either. And you're not going to be able to prove you've thrown away a bit of evidence that could prove to them that what you're doing is working, really. So, it always pays to keep it handy and have like a reference point to go back to, if I needed to now, I could go back to, certain clients' first sessions from 5 years ago, or their sort of fitness stuff. So if they ever do get back in touch, or if they ever did get back in touch and wanted to come back towards PT when I was still doing it, I could say to them, even more just for like nostalgia's sake, like, oh, can you remember back in the day when we were doing this and we were training this together? It really is. It just goes that little step further as well. But especially while they're still working with you and they're going to be working with you, keep it all, because it can be really helpful in, like I say, not just building their confidence in you, but really proving that what you're doing is working as well. Okay, guys, that'll about do us for today then. I don't think there's no more that I can think of off the top of my head, unless you've got anything else that you want to chuck in there, Hatham.
No, I think obviously that's carrying out a fitness test for someone else. Like when you do it yourself, keep tabs on your results yourself as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. Data is always going to be important. It's going to be as important in 6 months as it's going to be in 6 weeks when you really do want that reassurance that you're doing the right thing. Yeah. Sometimes it can be mind blowing to look back and say, wow, this was really me 6 months ago. It really can, and I wouldn't ever want anybody to be without that, because it can fuel the rest of your fitness journey so much more. It'll give you like a real little boost, you know, like when you're playing the old Mario Kart and you hit the you know, when you hit the 3 arrows on the track and it speeds you up a little bit. That's what I think. A little things like that are just little boosters. You might be slowing down, you might be losing momentum, you might be getting to the end of your program. You just skim off one of them like a little win, and like I say, it can really help motivate you again and give you that somewhere else to move on to.
Definitely.
You know, cool. Right, buddy. So if you don't mind just spinning onto that last slide, I've got amazing news in that there is no strict homework to do this week.
Okay.
But what I will say is just keep up with the bits that you're doing. We've got 2 weeks left. The aim is, of course, to get circuit cards delivered, any Zoom one-to-ones done that we need to by the end of the course. So just keep plugging away with that. Keep on with your circuit cards if you are still designing them, and of course, when you are ready to sort of fire those off and get those marked off, let me know. And like I say, we'll either get a one-to-one Zoom booked in, or you can just email them across and I'll just mark them off and say that I've got them.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys, that'll do us for today then. As always, please don't forget to just spend not even 30 seconds, truth be told, to fill in the survey that is in the, it's in the chat now as well. Yeah, it's in the description and the chat as well. You know, so should be easy enough for you to find it. Like I say, it doesn't take long to do. Helps us with paperwork and stuff like that. And you know what? Your feedback's really important to us as well. You know, we like to know what we're doing well and how we can maybe tweak things to suit you guys even better as well. And then, yeah, failing that, if I don't hear from you guys, if I don't catch you on any of the drop-ins, any of the live streams or whatever, I will catch you guys next Wednesday at the same time for session 9. As always, we've got a workout vid to sort of pair up with today's session. That is in the description as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Now that should take you to the that takes you to the Media Savvy playlist as well. That's got all of the fitness videos in there as well. So if you look and say, do you know what, I fancy something a bit different today, I want to do my abs or I want to do my legs to my bum, you know, there'll be something on there as well. So hopefully a little bit of something on there for everybody. As always, let us know how you're getting on, and give me a shout or drop me an email if you're struggling with anything or if you've got any questions. Other than that, guys, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you guys next week.
Cool. And I'm waving, but my camera isn't on. Doesn't have the endurance to be on for the full session. So goodbye.
Cheers, man. Cheers for jumping on.
See you next week, guys.
See you later, bud.